Welcome, everyone. My name is Chris Gore. This is the Film Threat Livecast on a Friday. I hope you're doing well. Today on the show, Dune Part 2. I attended a screening of Dune Part 1, in which we saw a preview of scenes from Dune Part 2, introduced by Denis Villeneuve. I need your help, Ms. P. Coffee, on that pronunciation. You got to help me out. Plus, your chat comments and questions. I saw a bunch of really cheesy Dune knockoffs. I mean, they were awful. One of them starred Sean Young. We're going to talk about that. Plus, Alan saw the movie Origin and wants to talk about it. And Godzilla -1 color is in theaters for 1 week. It's on 1,800 screens in the United States. And I was hoping to see it, and I was unable to. So, but Alan saw it. So Alan will talk about it. Alan's a big part of the show, as you all know. So let's get things kicked off. Let's get things started. Where's Alan? Let's go on a Friday. Come on. Okay. I need to find where Alan is. Come on! I think I found him.
Alan.
That was pretty good.
Well, of course, that's a lion. Now, why has a lion replaced that? What is it, like a little gopher or something?
Mufasa is coming out. And,
right. It's a lion because I got a text message from, believe it or not, Eminem.
Hey, Chris Gore, 2 more games. We're going to win this shit. Go Lions.
See, there you go. And if you look at my little Shakespeare bust right here in the background, it's not little, actually. It's full-size bust of William Shakespeare. The head bends back. I flip a switch. It opens a panel. Anyways, details later on that.
By the way, I hung out with Mexican Iron Man yesterday. We saw Godzilla -1 and minus color. And he says on Sunday, he will be your mortal enemy.
That's fine. I was in the middle of telling a quick story. My Shakespeare bust is wearing a Detroit Lions headband. But that's it. So you got to hang out with Mike. That's cool.
Yeah.
Mexican Iron Man. One of the nicest guys on the planet.
Oh, absolutely.
One of the nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't realize he had never seen Godzilla before. And
like Godzilla, like a Godzilla movie in general?
No. He had not seen Godzilla -1. In fact, his kid is like your daughter, massive old school Godzilla fan.
Right.
And,
that's cool.
Yeah, the two of them were, let's just say, blown away by the end of the movie.
So he hadn't seen the movie yet.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Well, that's a treat then. That's awesome. We've got a lot to talk about on the show. We've got a bunch of Dune news, Dune-related news. We're going to go through some Dune stuff, which is going to be a lot of fun. And then you and I are going to talk about Origin. And we do have a special guest today, an indie horror film that's opening today called The Seeding. Filmmaker Barnaby Clay is going to be with us in the last 20 minutes of the show. So look up The Seeding. I watched it yesterday, so hopefully we have an opportunity to talk about it. But yeah. Oh man, do we have a big show today? Let's see who's here in the chat before we kick things off. Who's in the chat? Whose comments were so good they were starred by Ms. P. Coffee? We're going to find out right now. The Nerd Far Away. Today marks my 10th month as a member of the Film Threat community. Am I just a level oneer? Yes, but I am loyal. Well, thank you for that, The Nerd Far Away. We appreciate it. We're trying to do more stuff for members.
Yeah. Because one day level 2 will mean something.
Right. But we do giveaways. What I might do is do the giveaways only for level 2 and above. That's what I may end up doing. But I like to give stuff away for free. What can I say? So we do giveaways with members and we do exclusive videos. It's usually a lot of videos. I notice, Alan, you haven't been posting anything.
Nope, not a thing.
Dude.
Alan's been really busy.
Well,
Alan's in the middle of Sundance right now.
you get a pass. You get a pass because of Sundance and Slamness. I've noticed like every day there's like 10 or more reviews.
Yeah. Well, it feels
Really?
that way. It feels that way as I prep them every morning and every night.
No, look, I'm just I like reading the website that I'm affiliated with. It's there you go. So yeah, Rag Star says still prefer Lynch's Dune, which is playing in, I believe, is it February 18th?
Yeah, I
February,
think so.
yeah, February
It's
18th.
a 2-day event.
It is the 40th anniversary of the 1984 Dune. I already have tickets. I'm going to see it with Comic Book Girl 19 just because she's a super fan and she's never seen the David Lynch Dune on the big screen.
Wow.
So we're going to go check it out. I'm going to see it at the AMC Burbank 16, the 4 p.m. show on Sunday. I hope it's packed. This Mirage saw Godzilla -1 color last night. Loved it more than the color version. I'm seeing it tonight.
You haven't seen it yet?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh.
Okay. Just so you know, my whole day yesterday went haywire. It's been a bad week for me. I'm trying to finish this article, which hope will be later today. It's going to be live on the site. It's this WGA. It's responses to the WGA open letter. We got a ton of responses. I'm editing them and being very careful about what we're sharing with people. But I was unable to see it last night. I was supposed to see the movie American Star, starring Ian McShane, and the screening I was supposed to go to was canceled at the literally hours before. My buddies, Alex is picking me up. We're gonna go. Yeah, this is gonna be awesome. And canceled screening. I mean, he was in John Wick 4. The movie I noticed. Then I went on Vudu, and I was like, oh, you can already rent it on Vudu. But I'm going to go to a screening of it. We'll talk about American Star next week with Ian McShane. It was weird. And then I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to watch a bunch of movies. And I saw a horror movie. It's not going to be out. It's one of the IFC horror films. It's going to be out, I think, in a month or so. That is one of the best horror films I've seen this year, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Which one was that? Stop motion or something?
Yes. Okay. Holy cow. I want to save it, but this movie, the trailer I think just hit, and I used to do stop motion animation when I was a kid. So yeah, I can't wait to talk about it. Not going to say a word, but I just stayed home and I watched a bunch of movies. Punch it, says Lord Thoth.
Yeah, I'll say this: I'm two films into Sundance now that they've released movies I can watch, and drama equals depressing. It's just all heavy subjects.
Yeah. I feel that way. I feel like when I've gone to Sundance in the past and I'll see these dramas, you feel depressed. Like Oscar films used to be that way. There's some decent Oscar films. Jimmy Francis says, has Film Threat together with Drinker and Nerdrotic ever considered inviting Kathleen Kennedy in for a debate? Serious question. I think it would be interesting to know how she would react. One, that'll never happen. Two, I mean, she's all of the press that you see, especially for people at that level, it's all controlled. It's all controlled. Even the language, everything is controlled. And when you're at that level, there are dollars at stake, there's stock prices at stake. Kathleen Kennedy's not going to go on Drinker, Nerdrotic, or Film Threat. She will never speak to us. And I think that's unfortunate. That's why I've always respected James Gunn, because I think he'll answer a random question on Twitter from a fan just to set the record straight. I do think maybe James Gunn is a little too, he overshares. It's like, look, dude, go and make a great movie, which I have full confidence he's capable of. And then let's talk and celebrate it. I really think if anybody's going to save the superhero genre, the only person who's able to do it, it's not going to be Marvel. It's going to be James Gunn. Mm-hmm. Just based on his track record. Triple Threat 304. Sorry, Chris, but the Niners are just too good, but a great run by the Lions. I'll just say this. This is why I love the NFL. Anything can happen. Injuries, turnovers, somebody has a bad game. I'll admit the Lions are the underdogs. But who roots for the underdogs? Everyone. Everyone roots for the underdogs.
Yeah.
So
well, I followed the I'll say I followed the 1988 Dodgers when they went to the World Series, and I
Yeah.
remember a joke from Johnny Carson where the Dodgers was the only team bus that could park in the handicap zone.
Oh no! Oh, that's no good.
No,
But
I mean
look,
yeah. I mean, Kirk Gibson, bum legs, he couldn't run, and he hits the game-winning home run.
yeah, no, I remember that game. That was great. Like, look, Niners. All due respect, they're a great team, and the Lions have had a great run, and anything can happen in the NFL. Anything can happen. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm a longtime Detroit Lions fan, so I'm going to be watching that game. Tokyo Steve says, Chris Gore, great hair. Well, get in line to give me that compliment. No, thank you, Tokyo Steve.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Hey, Matthew Hammond for $4.99. When is Alan's daughter going to start writing reviews for Film Threat?
Hi, Dad, I miss you.
So when could you
When she
answer
gets
this
off
one?
those damn video games.
Right. Well, you're the dad.
I know. I should
Thank you,
take her
Matthew
out.
Hammond. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Hey, Jason Delgado, I watched Citizen Wiener last night. Absolutely hilarious. Very much like Veep, as Chris said, or a Spinal Tap for politics. The whole cast of characters are odd and funny. A must-watch slam dance film. Jason, I'm so glad you agree.
Yeah.
It's just like you're like, and also it blurs the line. Like Zach Wiener is actually running for city council, but they're making a movie about him running for city council, and he works with a bunch of idiots. And the weird sex tape that leaks is just hilarious. I mean, it's not graphic.
The other thing is, look, I think it's real. I think
it is real.
They're all earnest, but it comes across as one of these mockumentaries, and it's just, yeah, like I said, a weird one to watch.
Well, so did you see it?
I did see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it. I'll probably watch it again, actually. I just thought they're just so endearing. And this kid, but also what's interesting is seeing the politics of local politics and how that functions. And you got to get a certain number of signatures, and then you got to actually talk to people. And then you see like these people that are just deep seated. They just get voted in every time because people like them. It's all about how many hands you shake, really. So there you go. Thanks, Jason. Jason is one of our most prolific writers on filmthreat.com. Look up Jason's reviews. He's very passionate, as are all the writers from Film Threat. Brock Samsonite says, I saw Memory the other day. It was okay. Not great, but not bad. I also saw The End We Start From with Jodie Comer, and that was much better. Thanks for the recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that, Brock.
Yeah, I believe Memory comes out in 2 weeks. Or something. I think that's the Jessica Chastain one. Yes.
Right. And Big Bullion, member for 2 months, says, viewers, please don't watch F Day. Wasted $1 at the Regal. It's a movie called F Day. Was that one of those?
No, I think it's Founders Day.
Founders Day. Oh, yeah. I gave it a negative review last week. And then I saw Jeremy Johns. I watch a lot of other YouTubers. Like, I'm like, I want to get different perspectives. Jeremy Johns I've watched for years. He's really entertaining. He's got like a Serpico look now. He's sort of growing his hair out. Does anyone know Jeremy Johns? Jay's in the chat for Jeremy Johns. Anyways, watched him for years. I've met him. As nice a guy in real life as on camera. Off camera, he's super nice. And he had the same thoughts on Founders Day as me. He really was disappointed. It's sort of a Scream ripoff, but he pointed out the exact same thing I did, which is there's a moment near the third act where it completely changes your perception of everything you've seen. And that was the one cool thing. And they should have, and if it was an 85-minute movie, would have been cool. It's an hour 40. Overstays its welcome.
Well, we gave it a 10 out of 10.
Look, this is why I love reading stuff on Film Threat. Diversity of opinions. Doc Savage for 5. Hey, appreciate you. Don't be mad, Alan, but I got drunk last night and started writing an action comedy using AI with you and Chris versus Kennedy and Kurtzman. Sorry, I was drunk. Well, maybe we could perform it.
Or you can just get AI to perform it.
Just get AI to perform it and use the voices. I wonder if you could get my voice into AI. That would be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mouse for some reason is not, you know what? I think I'm gonna have to like take it apart, dust it, clean it, one of those things. ML became a YouTube member. Well, thank you, ML. Appreciate it. Check the members tab to get access to the Discord and other stuff. Film review for 2. Cannot wait for Dune Part 2. But where is Aaliyah? Here's what I didn't realize. You know what? I'll save it. But bring up that Aaliyah. You know what? Don't get rid of that question. I'm going to hide it, but don't get rid of it. We will revisit it when we start talking about it. Quick thing we're going to do now. Now we are ready. Here you go. Let's talk about we've got basically for the next hour, maybe for the next 45 minutes we're talking Dune, then we're going to talk other films. 45 minutes, Alan. Keep me to that, please.
Okay.
So at around 9:45 we'll be done talking about Dune. Here we go. Got to pivot for a second, and here we are. I want to share something with you. This is like I've been sharing videos for members only, and I've got like 30 videos. I realize you can't schedule member videos, which sucks, but what I did was I took a video of my Dune collection. I have various types of collections. I have an extensive Star Wars collection, Batman collection, things I've collected. I mean, I have things that I had when I was a kid. I have a die-cast Millennium Falcon that I bought after Star Wars came out. I have a lot of different collections. I even have a 2001 collection. It's books, collectibles, whatnot. I'm very picky about things that I choose to be in my collection. Now, there are so many vast things you can buy for if you're a Batman or a Star Wars fan. A lot of things, right? There are very few things if you're a Dune fan. If you're a fan of Dune, there's actually not a lot to collect. So I have a collection. It's on my top shelf. Okay. And I'm going to share with you. I'm going to mute the audio so I can talk over it. This is a glimpse at some of my Dune collection. So let's check it out here. I got to find a way to mute. Okay. I think it's time I just put this little cup of coffee down and take a look at this Dune collection here. So, all right. So here, like I collect like magazines where like my favorite movies are on the cover. I've got board games. So we've got Monopoly Dune. They're board games. That's actually a prop replica mask from Dune Part 1. These are board games, and I have no one to play with board games. That's a on the right. That's a Chris knife from the first Dune prop replica. That's the ducal signet ring. That's Duke Leto's ducal signet ring. And that worm there is from the 1984 Dune. There's a bunch of copies of different Dune books that I've saved over the years. And this is an Atreides mug. I have not drank anything out of it yet. I will probably drink out of it later. Those are the reaction figures from the 1984 Dune, which is pretty cool. And there you see the Chris knife from the new Dune is right there. That's a replica. Now, those are the Todd McFarlane figures that are, I mean, they're lots of articulate. The more articulation, the better. But they're pretty awesome. And that's the boxed set for the Sci-Fi Channel Dune miniseries. And it comes with a giant Lego sandworm. One day I will assemble it. I need help with these things. I need a player 2 is what I need. But this is sitting on my top shelf right now in my living room where I mostly work. That's literally just a box of matches from the Dunes Hotel in Vegas, which I don't even think exists. I don't
believe it's there anymore.
I bought it at the Rose Bowl. So there you go. So look, I collect a lot of weird stuff. This is my growing Dune collection, but there's actually, technically speaking, not a lot to collect. If you look up Dune on, on like Amazon, you'll find t-shirts, but you're not going to find a lot of like, collectibles or items. And then the Dune costumes are really bad. They're just like, you can buy like for $50. You can buy a still suit, but it's a leotard. I thought about buying it. I'm like, I feel like I would look so stupid. And then how do I go to the bathroom? So there you go. There you go. A glimpse into my Dune collection. And for members only, I'm going to do videos where I share other parts of my collection. I'm very organized with it. I'll break it up into like, here's the books. Here's my long boxes of comics. These are action figures. And I try to keep them organized by type of thing. And then I've got stuff that I'll display. I have a Godzilla collection as well. Let's go to your comments.
By the way, was that an Avalon Hill game of Dune?
Yes.
Okay. How old is that one? I'm just curious.
I don't know, but they did a reissue of it, and I just bought it. I think it was on sale. This is when the first Dune came out. I literally haven't played them. Yeah. Razorburn, Chris, do you think they will make Dune Messiah and Children of Dune in the future? Denis Villeneuve has said that he wants to make a third Dune film to kind of make it a trilogy. So Dune Messiah, if you read it, is almost like an epilogue to the events that occur in Dune. It's very short. It's almost a novella. So it's very short, but it gives you like a little epilogue of what happens after the events in Dune. It takes place more than 10 years later. So Paul Atreides is in his early 30s. And Denis Villeneuve has said what he wants to do. There's a rumor that he's making Rendezvous with Rama, which is an Arthur C. Clarke novel. That's his next movie. It's his next secret project. But he wants to make Dune Messiah, but he wants to wait 10 years. So Timothée Chalamet will have actually aged. So you can look, Razorburn, you can look in the media. He's actually discussed that. As for Children of Dune, I would love for them to make God Emperor of Dune. That's the weirdest one. To me, that was the end of Dune for me. After that, it gets weird and with characters I don't care about as much. But yeah, Dune Messiah is great.
Yeah, when I saw the sci-fi series, I remember being particularly drawn to Children of Dune. That's about his kids, right?
Yes, that's the one with James McAvoy and the sort of the fate of the kids.
I actually really like that one over the others.
Yeah. More comments here. Georgie girl, hey, haven't seen you in a while. Good to have you here. A Dune deep dive channel thinks we hear her voice in most recent trailer because apparently the dub in a different language sounded really young. Guess we'll find out whether that was true soon. Well, one thing I forgot. So I watched Dune Part 1. We're going to get to that because Alan and I both went to this. I saw Dune Part 1 and there's a vision from Paul and he sees Aliyah in the vision. He talks about, he talks about his mother being pregnant.
Yes. And
then you see Aliyah, but it's a vision. It's not Aliyah. So I don't know what Aliyah is going to be like in Dune Part 2. We'll see. Retro Nerd Girl, hey, subscribe to Retro Nerd Girl's channel. She's fantastic. Cool collection. Thank you, Retro Nerd Girl. And she says, sweet figures. Hey, they're on Amazon. They're on Amazon from Todd McFarlane. And Retro Nerd Girl says, God Emperor is sick. I wish we could get a movie out of that too. It would be weird. It would be so weird if God Emperor to me is my favorite, in comparison with like Dune Part 1, but it's almost unfilmable. I think it's just so bizarre. And Retro Nerd Girl goes on to say that this is a legit awesome collection. Nice job, because all of this is rare to find. There are other things I didn't show in my collection. I have, when Dune 1984 came out with David Lynch, the David Lynch version, I mean, I think I saw the movie like 5-6 times in the theater, but they passed out to the audience a glossary of terms. Now, to be clear, there's a glossary of terms in the back of Dune itself, the novel, but they actually passed out to the audience. I actually have the original. A friend of mine, Jeff Tucker, found a stack of them at a shop, like a resale shop, and picked them up for me. And yeah, it's from 1984. Thank you, Retro Nerd Girl. Always love to see when you're live, and I like to pop in, see what you're talking about. Chris, have you seen the new Dune Part 2 theater popcorn bucket? Looks awesome. It also looks like a fleshlight. You think I'm joking?
No,
Have you seen this?
Seen it.
Have you seen it?
I've seen it. I've seen pictures of it. Yeah, reminds me of your sandworm. Even I think yours is more anatomically.
Well,
pleasing.
there's a couple. There's a couple. There's one for Regal, and then there's one for
AMC.
AMC. The one for AMC looks like a fleshlight. And guess who's gonna buy one? Me. I'm gonna buy one. Okay. So don't judge. Don't judge. Here is the oh my God. Oh my God. As I'm looking at this, it's even worse because I'm looking at the picture big. So let me share a screen here. You know what? This is so good. I'm actually gonna do a headline for this. Hang on, be patient with me, folks. This is on the fly.
So I'm trying to see if
no, I have it.
I'm trying to find Regals if they're promoting it or not.
I have the Regal one. It's very generic.
Okay.
It's very generic. But this Dune popcorn bucket, the photos that have been leaked online, I don't know what to say. Now, here's what it looks like, innocent enough. All right. It's got the branding from Dune, looks pretty cool, only in theaters. And this is the foreign version of it. And that's what it looks like. Okay, you've got the bucket, looks cool, plays popcorn. It houses your popcorn, and you can enjoy delicious popcorn as you're watching Dune Part 2. From the top, here's what the bucket looks like. Now, I'm not going to say, I don't know if I even need to say anything. That is the Dune Part 2 popcorn bucket that will be sold in theaters across the country. Pre-order your popcorn now, so it's waiting for you at the theater.
And you're supposed to stick your hand in there to get the popcorn?
Yes. And
but what if you have sensitive hands?
The teeth of Shai Hulud are used to make Chris knives, which are these unbreakable knives used in the Dune universe. I don't know. What do we think of this? Kind of weird. I don't know what to say. Yeah. Get ready for some butter on your popcorn. Yes, Wes Ray, I have seen it, and I really want one.
This is the greatest promotion. It rivals the Marvel's Flurkin egg.
Yeah, it's. I feel like they're actually making them so dumb on purpose so that you can't believe they actually exist. But there you go. And guess what? I will buy it. I will buy it.
So for $40. Let me warn you, it'll be $40, and they won't give you popcorn.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, there's no popcorn. A few more comments here. We're gonna actually talk about Dune Part 2. Phil Gone says the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries is way underrated, and it's here on YouTube for free. I did pick up the Blu-ray. I've got the Blu-ray box set. It often goes on sale, and it's actually a pretty cool. There's a huge box, and then it comes with a Lego sandworm. So there you go.
Yeah, what I like is it reminded me a lot of the old BBC productions, like Doctor Who.
Right.
That half studio, half half sci-fi.
Eric Stratton, member for 13 months, appreciate that. Says found the Dune glossary cheat sheet for the cast by Lynch. Yeah. You know what? I'll take a photo of it and I'll post it on our community tab. Mm-hmm. But I'll wait until later when Dune is coming out. Hey, from Rumble, and shout out to everyone on Rumble. We're building an audience on Rumble, and we appreciate that. ALS24 will Chris be attending the 80s re-release of Lynch's Dune? Yep. Talked about it at the top of the stream. I believe it's February 18th. I'm seeing the 4 p.m. show at the AMC Burbank 16. Feel free to join me. Also, Aid Ellis goes on to say, was at the mall a couple weeks back and popped into a Hot Topic to see if they had Dune stuff. They did not, but they did have a Rebel Moon t-shirt, and those will be on sale soon. Your Muslim uncle for $1.99. Always good to see the White Boy and Chris Gore show. What do you mean the White Boy?
What?
What do you mean Alan's not? Well, I guess you're white adjacent. Isn't that how
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
so tired of the identity
Oh my
politics.
God.
It's stupid, to be clear. It's incredibly stupid. And it divides us and does not contribute to a society where we all get along and we root for each other's successes.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that in our origin review.
Oh, we're going to talk about it. I can't wait, actually. That's the thing I'm looking forward to the most. Joe Haas for $4.99.
It's February 18th and 19th through Fathom.
Yep, February 18th and 19th. I might go see it twice. It's through Fathom Events, which now I'm seeing The Wizard of Oz this week. I'm seeing My Fair Lady. I'm just going to old movies, and they're excluded from A-list, which kind of sucks. But I know people that will like buy a ticket to a different movie and then sneak into a Fathom Events show. Don't do that. Support Fathom Events. Support classic cinema. Joe Haas for $4.99. Have you guys checked out the book Disney War? It provides a lot of context to the pre-Iger era. Recently found you guys and love your work. Thank you, Joe Haas, for $4.99. That's very generous. I have not heard of that. Alan, let's look it up. That fits into the D files. I know there's a new D files coming. Is that this week?
No, 2 weeks.
Why 2 weeks?
Because I need to do a little bit of research, and I'm in the middle of Sundance right now. So everything's
Alan.
I'm doing my job.
Wait, I gotta find a clip of you.
Prepare her for our pleasure. My wife hates that clip.
What happened?
What?
What happened? It went away.
Oh, I thought you were done with it.
No. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate
You
that.
anticipate your
Chris B. Everyone, please make Dune successful. I want to see honored Matris and Duncan Golas using weaponized sex powers on a true IMAX screen. Yeah, he's talking about the Bene Gesserit and the Duncan Golas. That's actually Dune Messiah. We'll get to it. Just a warning, it's a 20+ hour aid book, says Joe Haas for $1.99. If it's available as an audiobook, I often listen to audiobooks. If it's like a fiction, I listen to it at just the normal speed. If it's like a wonky business book, I'll do 1.5. Like I like stuff like that. I'm an audiobook guy. So there you go. All right, it's time to pivot. Alan, are you ready to pivot?
Yes, let's pivot.
Okay, it's time to pivot. Let's go.
I like to see Asians in movies. You know, people, I mean, I have to constantly be saying that. I hate gay films. No, I hate films with women in it.
You're not straight. Every time you talk like that, Alan, I can't believe it.
Yes, I hate everything.
Let's talk about Dune Part 2. Alan and I were one of the many attendees who earlier this week went to see Dune Part 1. It's re-released in IMAX in theaters. And at the very end of the screening, we saw Denis Villeneuve. He introduced a preview, an extended preview of Dune Part 2. The scene that we saw was Paul Atreides riding Shai-Hulud, which is, of course, one of the sandworms of Arrakis. And, of course, he called a big one, according to Stilgar. On IMAX screens, so just a couple quick thoughts on Dune Part 1. I have not seen it in a theater since it was originally released 2 years, more than 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was just out of the dark times.
Yeah, it was fall of 2021 when Dune Part 1 was released in theaters. And seeing it again on the big screen, what was interesting because I've seen it on my 4K Blu-ray several times and on HBO Max, like a lot of other people, but seeing it on IMAX it was like I was seeing it again for the first time. Couldn't believe how good the movie looked. It was epic in scale. And I feel like Dune Part 1 was a couple things. One, it was a lot of world building. A lot of we're explaining how things work.
It was all world building.
It's all world building. And then one big thing that happens in the third act, which is the fall of House Atreides. Spoilers. There will be spoilers for Dune Part 1. But yeah, the fall of House Atreides, but the world building is so excellently done, and I think well translated from the book. I like the Bene Gesserit hand signals. I like the fact that Paul Atreides knows several different languages. He speaks a language with Dr. Yui. There's so many great things about it. There's a lot of setups that I expect to pay off in Dune Part 2. For example, Paul's relationship, Paul's experience with the Gom Jabbar. I feel like that will be reversed in Dune Part 2. And it was just great to see. I really wish what I could see is Dune Part 1 and Part 2 in one day. Just see that as like a 6-hour thing. Some version of Barbenheimer. We can watch them both, but it was great. Any thoughts on Dune Part 1, seeing it in theaters again?
Yeah. So I will say that I enjoyed it the first time. I really enjoyed it in IMAX. And I had the pleasure of seeing it in the third row of my IMAX theater. And I will say it felt like that Denny had made the movie for IMAX, because there are some incredible shots that really there's a part where he's kind of following them over the dune to look at the decimation of the city that they had established, and the reveal of it just really worked in IMAX. I'll also say the sound in IMAX, incredible. When we get to the worm part, the sound is a big part of that. I also took my daughter because I just want to get her perspective, especially when when people say that science fiction isn't for girls, and I will say science fiction isn't for girls. I mean,
what, did she like it? What did she think?
She was like, she was not into it. She was
not even with Timothée Chalamet. He's like,
the reason I got her to go was Timothée Chalamet, and
wow.
and I think the problem that she had.
You are going to a desert planet.
Planet Dune.
Sorry about that. Sorry,
okay.
Nothing.
The problem that she had with the movie, and I think we hinted upon it, was all set up. It was absolutely all set up. It was just, I go, this movie is for context, and context for Dune 2. And, quite frankly, she's new to the series, knew nothing about it. I told her, all she knows is that you're a big fan of it. And, I don't think, it's kind of like, I think the movie's more for fans than it is for the general public, because it's like, all right, the way I described it was Dune 1 is setting up the chessboard. And right. I think, and now Dune 2 will be the first moves. And so, so if you're coming in uninitiated, I think you're just going to get that sense of this is setting up the chessboard.
Yeah, it really is the setup for all the events of Dune Part 2, which are Dune Part 2 is the payoff.
Yeah.
Fine.
I mean, it was smart to call it Part 1 because it's very much a Part 1.
It very much is a Part 1. But so after you see Dune Part 1, which I just noticed details, like I noticed that you see Aaliyah in a vision from Paul. So we actually have seen Aaliyah. She's literally just a baby, right? Just a kid. Probably 6 months old, or less. So we actually have seen Aaliyah, technically speaking, but not Aaliyah as she will be portrayed in Dune Part 2. Now, the preview is introduced by Denis, the director, and we see this scene. It is epic in scale. You've got, and it actually kind of, and what's interesting, it is kind of explains, like, to conquer the worm, so to speak, is you've got to actually have these hooks, right? These maker hooks, whatever, that Paul throws out, and you got to kind of pull up the scales so that it twists the worm, so you're on top, right? You're not on the side, and then you can ride the worm. We see this scene play out. It's a big, yes, I know, don't take that out of context. You see Paul Atreides riding the worm. It's epic. It's an incredible scene. The sound, especially in IMAX, with just the theater shook. And by the way, I don't know if you knew this, Alan, but during that screening, there was an earthquake. No. There was an earthquake, and we didn't feel it. I feel like nobody felt it. We were all
maybe it caused it.
Did you feel the earthquake? I didn't feel it. So none of us actually felt the earthquake, but it was really amazing. So,
yeah.
So I don't know look, I'll just say this. to describe it is to do it a disservice. It must be seen in IMAX. This movie was made for IMAX. And Denis Villeneuve, in his introduction, he says, and here's to cinema. He doesn't say, he does this little praise to cinema. I feel like there are certain filmmakers out there. Christopher Nolan is one of them. By the way, Tenet is being re-released in theaters in a couple of weeks.
Because people want that.
For IMAX. Look, I didn't love Tenet. I've seen it in IMAX already. But I'll probably go back and see it. But it's there are some filmmakers committed to like, hey, let's make real cinema because people will come out for it. Okay. So there you go. I thought the scene was fantastic. And then there's a montage of scenes. Many of them we've already seen. So I'm gonna be honest. I was a little disappointed because I went to a preview of Dune Part 1. They showed the first 10 minutes of the movie. Then they showed like an extended look, an extended trailer. And then they showed some behind the scenes and making of. It was about 30 minutes long. For Dune Part 1, that's what they did. For Dune Part 2, it was literally like maybe a 10 or 12 minute thing. Not as a little disappointed that they didn't show more.
Yeah, you wanted them to show the movie after that.
Well, it was interesting that we saw the first 10 minutes of Dune Part 1. It was so different than anything we've seen.
Yeah, but he showed you the
serious.
most iconic moment of the series of the two movies.
Right.
I mean, that has to say something. Also, yeah, like again, I'll go to the sound. Sound was incredible during that entire scene. Your seats are shaking like crazy as it's going on. And also, he talks a little bit about, I think he wanted to really up the game of that scene, and I believe he did it in terms of getting the weight, the size of what was going on, and then the difficulty of doing the task. Or as you like to see, say, Timothée Chalamet writing The Worm.
And we're gonna
see that.
What I do love is that he describes it as a war movie. It's literally a war movie with the Fremen led by Paul Atreides, basically shutting down spice production on Arrakis in a way to wield power. It's very much like an allegory for the Middle East and oil. It's also, Dune is inspired by, especially with the character of Stilgar, who's channeling Anthony Quinn from Lawrence of Arabia. So it's inspired. These are the sources of inspiration. And then, of course, I mean, and people forget, the original Dune, the first novel, it was serialized in science fiction pulp magazines. Then it was published in 1965. 12 years later, George Lucas comes out with Star Wars. And Frank Herbert at the time was upset because there was a lot of influence from in Star Wars, the movie, the first movie, not A New Hope, Episode 4, none of that. The first Star Wars movie released to theaters was very inspired by aspects of Dune. So, it's just nice. It's nice to see a nearly faithful adaptation of Dune on the big screen. I'll say this though, I still think Dune as a miniseries done on a Game of Thrones level in epic scale would be really fun to do someday. I would love to see HBO because look, if you look at George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones, it's Dune. It's great houses. They're fighting over dominance, the Iron Throne, and the Dune world is very much like that. So, and there's sex in both of those things. So
there you go. Now you
make of that what you will.
Yes,
but
there you go. Now make the series. I'm in now.
I couldn't be more excited. But Dune Part 2, there is a fan screening on Sunday, February 25th, 7 p.m. I've got tickets. I'll be there. Hopefully Alan and I will get to see it earlier so we can tell you about it. But I will be there on the 25th. Yeah. Let's check out your comments.
The way it's been working is, hey, Alan, we're going to invite you to a screening. Can I bring Chris? Let me get back to you on that one.
Oh, I'm just going to crash it. I don't care. I'm going to act stupid. This is sometimes my move, not to out myself. What I do sometimes is I act like I don't know what I'm doing and I'm stupid. I know exactly what I'm doing. So you've been warned. Georgie girl. Yeah, I'm glad I read the books before I watched anything. Yeah, the books are fantastic. And Rust says more for the fans than for the general public. Sounds great. No, look, just watch it. Just watch it.
I mean,
Ride
look,
the
like the Dune Part 1 sets up the potential of what could be something great. But that's 2.5 hours of potential. Look, I like the movie. I really like the movie. I had seen the Lynch. I'd seen the TV series, so at least I had a little bit to know what was going on. But it's a tough sell for those who haven't seen it.
Well, there you go. Monkey Jeebus says, "Ride the worm." Chris Gore. That's a quote from me. Ride the worm. Pickle Droner. That's it. That's going to be our thing. I got a worm you can ride, says Eric S. Snow Queen Elsa. How to train your worm. In a way, oh my gosh, that's actually, I didn't even think about that. How to Train Your Dragon. And Alistair Campbell, what happened to HBO's The Sisterhood of Dune TV show? Is that still happening? It is still happening, is my understanding. I still think what they did was they were about to shoot they were going to shoot the pilot and something happened and it got shut down. And for HBO Max, that was usually the sign of a good thing. That means that it needs more work. I mean, you may or may not know, they made an entire pilot for Game of Thrones with a completely different cast, and they shelved it and recast it with the exception of Peter Dinklage. There exists, and I've never seen it. I don't know if it's out there. I don't know if it's out there, but there is a whole Game of Thrones pilot with a different cast. I would love to see it. I would love to see that.
So I'll say, so I'm looking at the news. The last news about it was 11 months ago. Dune, the Sisterhood director Johan Renck and star Shirley Henderson exit HBO Max series amid creative overhaul and production hiatus. So so the last we've heard is the top people left, and then the strike happened.
Right. So it's in development, but that look, HBO has a very good history with shepherding shows and making them quality shows. Everything from look at Succession, look at Game of Thrones, look at House of the Dragon. Game of Thrones, though, was that I don't blame HBO per se. I think it was this where it came down. We're like, okay, we've got 2 seasons worth of material. How about we wrap up the entire show with half a season? Mistake. Pilgrim Media for 2 says, Chris, you ever go to Whiskey A Go-Go? I do not, but I have been there. Thank you, Pilgrim Media. Changer of Ways for 2. Do you prefer us to follow on Rumble or YouTube? Either, wherever I follow on both. So yeah. YouTube will get us views. We make, Rumble is more free in terms of its, in terms of your freedom to say things. Mm-hmm. But I think we make more money on YouTube. Yeah, doesn't matter.
More money on YouTube.
You know what? But support Rumble because I think things are going to get interesting this year.
Yeah,
I think things are going to get interesting in the year 2024.
Yeah, I call it the year of misinformation.
Joe, not a Fed, who's a member, says, I found that the Dune Part 1 2+ hour setup was a bit of a disappointment. Dune Part 2 better be worth it. Well, according to Denis Villeneuve, the intention is this is one movie. It's just broken up into 2 parts. Mm-hmm. So it's like a nearly 6-hour movie because to tell the story of Dune from the novel, you can't do it in one movie. I mean, David Lynch did the best he could, and the best version, it's a 3-hour version of Dune in 4K, the David Lynch version, a restoration done by a fan. It's called the Spice Diver Cut. Watch it. It's fantastic.
Also, when we first saw Dune Part 1, Part 2 had not yet been greenlit.
Yeah, so we didn't even know if it was going to happen. Bruce Leroy Jenkins, I know that reference. For 2, Frank Gore, see America's Twink riding the worm. I would agree with that. I think that's what we all need to do. So there you go. Thank you, Leroy Jenkins, Bruce version. All right, we're going to pivot for a second because there's something else I want to talk about. I'm going to talk about a bunch of these Dune knockoff movies that exist. I watched them. I watched these two movies so that you don't have to. I'm going to show you a clip from one of these films, but I need to show you what these movies are right now. So let's take a look right here. I have them. Here it is. Okay. Okay, there's a movie. I just have to show it. You're going to see these pop up on your feed. It's a movie called Dune Drifter. I have seen Dune Drifter. Is the movie good? No. Is it bad? No. Is it god awful? Close. Most of the movie Dune Drifter involves a fleet of ships that are attacking an enemy giant starship with a bunch of small fighters. The first nearly 20-30 minutes of this movie is a bunch of people in extreme close-up in cockpits with LED lighting around their pilots' masks. That's the first 20-30 minutes of the movie. I'm not making this up. It's incredibly low budget. And I will say this, I actually have to give Dune Drifter a little bit of credit, because it actually aspired to take itself kind of seriously. And the acting is not terrible for a movie of this type, but you can tell that they made this movie for almost no money. They probably shot all the stuff with the people in the cockpits in one day. Okay. This is a movie that was made in a week. One of the female pilots gets shot down on an unknown planet, and this alien force comes down to hunt the pilots who are marooned on this planet. There's no reason why this movie should even be called Dune Drifter. It's just capitalizing on the fact that Dune is coming out. It does take itself like kind of a little bit seriously. And I love that they not only kind of use the word Dune in the title, Dune Drifter, marooned on a desolate planet. They use a tagline on their poster that's taken from another movie, A Battle Beyond the Stars. There's a movie called Battle Beyond the Stars, okay, that exists. Sybil Danning is in that movie, and only I remember that movie. And maybe Retro Nerd Girl remembers Battle Beyond the Stars, which is actually a very fun Seven Samurai-like movie starring John Boy Walton, Richard Thomas, and Sybil Danning, with special effects by James Cameron and an amazing score by James Horning. And John Saxon is the bad guy in that movie. Anyways, I know a lot of meaningless facts from old school sci-fi. Dune Drifter is, you have to give them kind of an A for effort. The results are a mediocre, forgettable sci-fi film, but at least they took it seriously, and the digital effects were like, oh, okay, they're actually trying for something. Now I saw another one, and this one really got me interested because this one actually, this Dune knockoff, this one actually stars someone who was in Dune. It's called Planet Dune. And who's above the title? The name above the title is Sean Young.
That's the selling point of the movie.
That's the selling point. Their mission was doomed to fail, and they outright, while the other film, was like it sort of like just borrowed the name. This movie's like, it's basically Tremors on Arrakis. So you've got a woman who's a hotshot pilot. She works in this rescue team, and she's put on this duty to kind of work off. She was insubordinate, and Sean Young is the commander. She's commander, and they put her in this. I'm going to show you the trailer. We're going to check out the trailer. They put her in this outfit, and oh my God. She just like, it's like, Sean Young, what are you doing? What are you doing? From Dune 1984 to Blade Runner to this, might have been better off not being in this film. And it's completely cheesy. This movie is done by the Asylum, And the Asylum, of course, from Sharknado and all those movies. The Asylum movies never take themselves very seriously. They make the poster and come up with the title before they even make the film. And this is just, it's cheesy. But I will say this, it's almost more inspired by Tremors than it is by Dune. So they go on this desert planet to rescue this marooned vehicle and a bunch of, and you know what? You meet this crew of diverse characters. Of course, some of them are going to die, some unexpected deaths. I got to give them credit for that. And Sean Young, who she must have done all of her scenes in one day. So look, I'm not recommending either of these movies. I'm saying if you are so excited for Dune that you're like me, seeing Third Stage Spice Guild navigators in lemons that you picked off your lemon tree, you're so pumped. Maybe take the time to watch these. And Planet Dune is free on Vudu with commercials. So there you go. Let's check out the trailer for Planet Dune. I'm going to stop screen here and we're just going to check it out just so you can get kind of a taste of this. So here we go. On the Film Threat, just as an FYI, Film Threat has a trailers channel, and I strongly recommend check out the Film Threat trailers channel. There are new trailers daily. We've got Hundreds of Beavers trailer hit. Oh, here it is. Planet Dune. Let's check out the trailer. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to throw on my headphones here. Get ready for this. Planet Dune.
You are going to a desert planet.
Planet Dune?
6 crew, we lost contact. We're going to send you in to rescue.
You're getting to set to Planet Dune? I have visuals and readings coming in hard. We gotta hurry. Oxygen's dropping faster than I'd like.
Unless we know what happened to the freighter crew.
There could still be survivors out there. Come on, we gotta get off this spot. There's more than one worm. Go!
I'd like to request a retrieval team.
The crew's expendable. Dismissed, Captain.
God! They're not coming. Just get off this planet. Did you feel that? Do it! Look, we can't stay here. They're too fast. Look out!
Oh my God.
Again, sci-fi is no longer off limits to indie filmmakers.
Right. Oh my God. Oh yeah. And subscribe to the Film Threat YouTube channel. We appreciate that. New trailers every day dropping. I can't say all the trailers will be good, but they're there. So there you go. Anyways, look, it doesn't take itself too seriously and it's free to watch. So look up Planet Dune. Look, I already know when you know that a movie is bad, I think it kind of is like it's a bitter pill that's easy to swallow. It's like, I know I'm seeing a terrible movie. So there you are. Let's go to your comments and questions if we have a few here. Retro Nerd Girl says, I am going to love these. Yeah. See, you got to go in with the right spirit. So appreciate Snakes and Funerals member for 11 months. That tagline is a little too telling, isn't it? Judd Goswick, designed for your grandma to buy the wrong movie. Yeah, it's sort of like when I got the Game Station 5 at Christmas.
You like Dune? Here, happy birthday.
Yeah, exactly. I got you that Dune movie. From Rumble, Scott MCC says, Sean Young as fat old lady captain is a sobering fact. Speaking of sobering, I don't think that she's sober. Last time
no, actually,
we started a film festival. She was
okay. Well, let me speak to that. Recently, in 2022, it reviewed a short film called Stairway to the Stars.
Yeah,
that starred Sean Young, basically as a current version of herself.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, someone who'd gone through recovery, who has demons. And in terms of appearance, we all grow older, and she just looks older.
Actually, I think she looks. For me, I think she looks really good for her age.
Yeah.
I just don't think that what she was wearing was very complimentary
Mm-hmm.
to her. I mean, look, shout out to the curvy girls. If you know who Betty Page is, you know what I'm talking about. Portland 182 says Planet Dune is dreadfully cheap looking with bad effects and acting. Well, true.
Yes.
But there you go. Hey, I've got one
and
last.
You didn't expect that?
You didn't expect it. Come on, folks. All right. So one last thing I'm going to show you. We're going to pivot quickly. Got to be doing this on the fly. Is the Wes Anderson Dune AI generated trailer. Okay. I have a playlist. This is a personal playlist that I keep. Okay. And it's my collection of weird AI generated movie trailers. There's a bunch of them, like Alejandro Jodorowsky's Dune. There is Stanley Kubrick's Star Wars. Start looking these up. I love them. So, and when I say they're trailers, what they really are is a collection of images set to music. I'm going to share one with you now. And what this is some Wes Anderson's, it's Wes Anderson's Dune. So it's very quick. And let me just show you this. I'm going to skip the ad. I'm going to skip the ad and pause this. It's only about 2 minutes, but the visuals are really worthwhile. So I've gone down this rabbit hole of looking up AI trailers, which are kind of crazy. So let me share a screen with this for you. Here we go. This is AI Wes Anderson's Dune. Here we go. Dune by Wes Anderson, Rise Kingdom.
What kind of character are you?
Freeman named Ferrick. The man to my right is a Freeman named
No.
Nam.
I said, what kind of character are you? Dear Chani, here is my plan.
Dear Paul, my answer is yes.
Dear Chani, when?
Dear Paul, where?
Dear Chani, walk 400 yards north of your siege through the desert and meet me at the top of the big dune. As for me, I have to solve some problems. Pass a death test from a scary dame.
Come here.
Slip out of my father's control. Defeat the Padishah Emperor's army. Fat Baron Harkonnen.
My Dune.
His evil nephew. And also one of your crazy friends.
Fight!
And after all this fuss, I will definitely rush to you on a big worm.
This fall, get ready for a touching new story from Master Wes Anderson. The heir of half the universe will leave everything and run away with the beloved girl from his dreams to the desert to ride worms all day long and breathe magic dust together. Starring Timothy Chalamet, Zendaya, Jason Schwartzman, Willem Dafoe, Adrian Brody, Edward Norton, Tilda Swinton, Bill Murray, Jeff Goldblum, and Owen Wilson. Dunerized Kingdom. Everyone thought it was impossible to make this movie, but AI did it. Subscribe to the AI Show YouTube channel.
So subscribe to the AI.
That's pretty good.
What's that?
It's pretty good. But AI is not there yet. What?
Right. We'll put a link in the description. I do think this is very creative. So I actually am obsessed with these AI generated trailers. There's Wizard of Oz. I mean, they're not really trailers per se. This one definitely apes Wes Anderson's style. And I'm just enjoying it. Like, this is, I think, a positive use of AI is kind of production design. But AI, to me, AI, and I'll shout out to Script Doctor for coming up with this term. Basically, AI is not artificial intelligence, it's simulated intelligence. In a way, it's kind of like a randomizer. When you go to create a character in a video game and you're like, I don't want to sit here forever and design like the nose and the lips and the eyebrows of somebody. Like, I'm just going to click the randomizer until I finally get the thing I like. And that's what I think that a lot of this AI generated art is. It's a randomizer. Here's a style, here's a direction, here's some keywords. You're randomizing things.
Yeah, I'll stand up for those who constantly criticize us for promoting AI, but it's laziness. It's going to make American entertainment lazy, and I think there is something, and also our brains, we know the difference at this point, and it's as fun as it can be. I fear the day in which we do see a 2-hour AI movie.
Well, I don't know that we'll see a 2-hour AI movie, but I believe AI is a tool just like Photoshop, just like any tool for a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Let's go to your comments and questions here, starting with Changer of Ways for 2. Red Letter Media got me into crappy movies. Love them. Best of the worst. Never miss an episode. Love the guys from Red Letter Media. I love it. And Retro Nerd Girl says, it's like a car crash. You can't look away. For sure. And Mob 19001 Wonka in Space. It definitely captured kind of a Wes Anderson tone, especially with that music. Clever invective. Don't give Disney any ideas. I hear you.
They have, yeah. Believe me, the ideas are there.
Sons and Shadows, who's a member, says, not for me, but that's all good if you like it. Look, I was entertained for 2 minutes. A good laugh, and we can laugh together. Portland 182, you might like George Lucas directs 2001: A Space Odyssey. FYI, I own the DVD of Planet Dune. Oh man, if I could get a used copy of that, I think I'll just pick it up. But I want the standard def version. I don't want Blu-ray. Ugh. For a movie like that. MK Solid 82 says, these actors are going to be so pissed that AI can take their likeness. True. All right, time to pivot, Alan. Time to pivot. We're on a crunch.
Yes.
Big show today. Godzilla -1 is in theaters. Alan Ing has seen it. I have not seen it. Godzilla -1 color is here. I am seeing the film tonight. Alan has seen the movie. Alan, what are your thoughts on Godzilla -1 color?
Yeah, weirdly, it felt like a whole new experience. The transfer from, it was not only just a transfer from color to black and white, but I believe it was a transfer to that 16 millimeter look. So the soft edges or the hard edges are now soft. The color, this is a darker movie color wise, tonally speaking. Because a lot of the scenes in the color version took place during daylight, and in the -1 color, it looks like it was shot at night. So they really play up those contrasts, and they really, I think we talked about Godzilla -1 as being an homage to the original Godzilla. This is a true homage to the original Godzilla in terms of the look, the feel of it. And so, yeah, it's definitely not just Godzilla -1 without color. It's a brand new experience.
Yeah, well, one thing I got to ask, because I did see the trailer for -1 color, and I saw, just some clips. It looks like a different movie. I mean, I saw the Raymond Burr 1954 Godzilla movie when I was a kid. Didn't realize that they had they kind of recut the movie for American audiences. This was their thinking at the time. And I believe was it United Artists or AIP, American International Pictures? I think it was American International Pictures that said, look, no one's going to want to see a movie with only Japanese people in it in the United States. So we're going to add some scenes with Raymond Burr playing Steve Martin, reporter from America. And at the time, I didn't notice it. It's like fine. And the movie was dubbed in English when I saw it as a kid. Never missed. When Godzilla was on TV, I never missed it. And when they did Godzilla Week at the movies, which was on the 4 o'clock or 4:30 movie, which was before the news, it was right after school when I was a kid. I quit the Cub Scouts because it conflicted with Godzilla Week. All right. Devoted Godzilla fan. But I never noticed, if you watch the Raymond Burr movie now, it doesn't match. It was shot with different cameras and different film grain. It doesn't match. The original 1954, the Japanese version, is very different. It's a melodrama, and the director of -1 sort of recaptured the melodrama. It's like, look up a filmmaker named Ozu, who does Japanese melodramas, and this is what Godzilla -1 is inspired by. The minus color is to take it to retro. Now, it's only in theaters for 1 week. I'm going to see it. I'm seeing it tonight. I already have tickets. I'm probably going to see it again in 4DX because I want to get the 4DX treatment.
Yeah, unfortunately, ours is not available for 4DX.
It's at the Regal in North Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I'm going.
Yeah, ours is doing Spider-Man. So.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Hey, you could join me. You could join me. But like, how does it change? I really do think it changes a feeling of a movie. So, and I've already looked. Screenings are packed. The screening I'm going to tonight is packed.
Yeah.
So
they come out to Orange County. They're not as packed.
Look, this movie, to be clear, Godzilla -1, the success of it, it was only supposed to play for a week in America. They keep extending it. It's currently in 1,800 theaters. People are thirsting for real cinema. And there are filmmakers, Christopher Nolan, Denis Villeneuve, the filmmakers behind Godzilla -1 with it's worth noting, a team of 35 people did the special effects for this. All right, 35 as opposed to 1,000 for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. We're getting our ass kicked by America is getting its ass kicked, and rightfully so, from foreign filmmakers who are unburdened by so many rules that must be abided by, which drive up budgets, which basically you've got middle management bloat. I mean, I did a tweet about it, just talking about how they probably had, as many supervisors as artists. I'm going to guess the 35-member team were mostly artists and maybe one supervisor. And that's all you need. And you get a better, clear vision instead of the mess that ends up being your latest Marvel movie. So,
well, I'll tell you why independent theaters like this. Unlike the big Hollywood blockbuster, everyone crams in that first week. They find out how bad a movie is, and now they're stuck with it for maybe the next week or 2 weeks. And they're, and so these bad movies are dominating their screen time, their theaters. A movie like Godzilla, the reason they like it is because, it may not have been a great success from the start, but it had that slow burn, and people were coming week after week to see the movie, and so a movie like Godzilla had legs, and it basically brought people to the theaters a lot longer than the big Hollywood productions.
Well, look, I'm just excited that, my fandom from being a kid and my love for Godzilla, which is a guy in a rubber suit. Literally, the first Godzilla suit was constructed from the same rubber that they used to make tires on a car. The actor who was in the suit almost died a couple times. And it was so heavy. It was over 100 pounds. And he had to lumber in that suit. I cannot wait for it. Really looking forward to seeing it again. And I hope it actually stays beyond the 1 week run that it's supposed to do.
Yeah, and I believe it can't contractually.
Let's go to your comments and questions, starting with Byron B. Says Godzilla -1, so overrated. I disagree. It is because here's why it's not overrated. It's the human story. The human story is so compelling. Strong men who basically say, our government is not going to help us. We need to fix this ourselves. I just love the themes in it. I've seen it now 5 times in a theater. The themes, it's there are more layers to this film than are apparent on first glance. It's not just a Godzilla movie. It's about the triumph of the human spirit. And in my mind, should have been nominated for more Oscars.
Yeah. There's also simplicity. There's also simplicity to Godzilla -1 in terms of its effects, the look of it, compared to a $250 million Marvel's movie. I like the fact that it is scaled back, and one costing $250 million versus the other that cost $10 to $12 million to make. I mean, go ahead.
Matthew Hammond for 2. Logan in black and white is really good. Oh, interesting. I do like that. And I watched the Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League in black and white. And that looks very good, along with the Mad Max Fury Road as well. Shake your head all you want, Alan.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for the 2.
Yeah, Zack Snyder, greatest filmmaker ever. Yeah.
Guyver Mecton says Gojira -Gigan. I never liked Gigan. I thought Gigan was the dumbest looking. He's got swords for hands. How does he go to the bathroom? Are these movies cheaper for theaters as well? Well, those certainly aren't under the same kind of constraints as Disney. Disney is the most oppressive, has the most oppressive deals for theater owners of any other studio.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to change. Theater owners are going to push back.
Because Disney's not producing any good movies, and the theater owners are trying to catch on to that.
Retro Nerd Girl says, bloat is the perfect word to describe what's happening. Yep. Sean Hu says, Alan, Godzilla's got legs. And Bad Coyote Funky says the human story was the best part of the movie and Godzilla was the icing on the cake. The American versions are trash compared to it. That trailer for Godzilla X Kong looks awful. Goober says Black and White Justice League in 4:3 is a fail. Disagree, but that's fair.
I want to see the 1966 Batman in black and white.
Yes, Ron Smith, we must do this to save our country because the government won't do it. I feel like that theme resonates today. From Rumble, ADellis24, as Alan alluded to, it can't be in theaters any longer contractually. WB moved up the release of Godzilla X Kong to capitalize on the hype of -1, but also get it out of theaters sooner. That's awful to hear.
We have to get the taste of Godzilla -1 out of our mouths before the new Godzilla comes out.
Yeah. In any case, I love it. Go see it. I already have tickets. Time to pivot. And Alan, I'm going to hand this off to you.
Yeah. Where's the I'm in the wrong
I don't see it.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, let's talk about Origin.
Let's talk about Origin.
Yeah.
Alan.
So when I was invited to screenings of Origin last year, I was like, there's no way in hell I'm seeing this movie. Because
why do you say that?
Why do I say that? Because I've seen this movie before, in the sense of, it's just going to be a lecture about racism in America, white people bad, blah blah blah, and then you reviewed it 2 weeks ago.
Yes,
I was like, okay, maybe it's not what I think it is, and then I saw it that week and realized, wow, it is really not what I thought this movie was going to be. I was incredibly surprised by the thoughtfulness of this movie, and look. I'll describe the movie as this. It's based on the book Cast. I forget the full title. I think it's the Cast: The Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson. And the movie is basically Isabel. It's about Isabel Wilkerson, played by Ingenue Taylor. Yeah, something. I don't have it up here. Sorry. Ingenue Ellis Taylor, and she plays Isabel Wilkerson, and the movie is essentially her research for the book, and so it starts off, and we've had some comments about this, but it starts off with the Trayvon Martin murder, and the first thing that stuck out to me about how this movie is different than any other discussion about it is Isabel Wilkerson describes the Trayvon murder as why would a Latino man kill a black teen in an all-white neighborhood? And that stuck out to me because the message we've been getting about the Trayvon murder was it was a white guy who killed Trayvon Martin, and it was like, okay, so they at least got the nuance of that little aspect of it. But the thing is, this is not about Trayvon Martin's murder. It's the murder was basically the jumpstart of the story, and her whole thesis is the idea that human atrocities that have occurred over time have some kind of interconnected tissue running through it, whether it's slavery, whether it's the Holocaust, whether it's the caste system in India, even the Armenian genocide, and the ultimate point she makes here is that the problem of racism in America has nothing to do with race. It has to do with the fact that we've created a caste system without knowing it. And that in America, so she explores the caste system in India, why a homogenous group of people would put people in groups and then place hierarchies over that group. in America, we do the same thing, except these groups are placed are grouped by race. So you have Black, you have white, you have Latino, you have Asian, and then the way it works is how you rank these races. And she describes it as this broken scaffolding system, and that the problem we have with race today is that we've built a caste system that places everyone in groups based on race, and we put it in the system that is going to fall apart at some point. And I believe the intent of this book was to finally say, to solve the problems, we need to get rid of the scaffolding system. We need to get rid of these caste systems that we've created, and truly come to a point where we see each other as equals. The reality of that we are all human beings. We can give each other blood transfusions. We can give each other organs. We are all human beings. It's our culture and our skin color that creates a separation, and that's this movie. And it was just, what I appreciated about Origins so much was that it was a new way of looking at racism in America without being vitriolic, without blaming a group. Look, the caste system, the people at the top have culpability here. They have their sins that they've created. But the problem is that we in America feel like we need to solve racism, solve this caste system by just shifting boxes, by putting a new group at the top and a new group at the bottom. And that's not going to solve the problem, because all you're doing is perpetuating that caste system. So that's what I got out of this movie. Interestingly enough, there was 5 of us in my theater, and one was a elderly Black couple, and I just happened to walk out while they were standing there, and we just started talking about this. And he was like me. He was saying, I was not expecting to see the movie that I saw, and that he was expecting something very different, and was very, very glad to have seen what he saw. And so I would say this, I've been looking at this race issue for a majority of my life, and this is the first time I've heard a different take that I think is closer to the answer than any other take we've had. And I would say, whether you agree with it or not, see this movie, expose yourself to a different line of thinking that's very different than what we're being shown on television. And I would say, don't let the discussion of Trayvon Martin stop you, because it's really the jumping off point. It's not the crux or the foundation of the film. It was just an event that sparked everything.
Well, it's a big event. It was a big event in the media. Remember, I mean, Obama even commented on it, like, this could have been my son, right? Like, so it doesn't get into the details of that case, which I think are muddied. There was more to it, and I'm not going to get into it, and the movie doesn't get into it. But what I do like is the question is asked: everything can't be racist. Not everything is racist. There is a group, mostly on social media, that wants to look at the world through the lens of everything is racist, right? And it's just not true. There's different reasons for it. And I think what I appreciate about this character is that's the idea that she's exploring in it. So I think it's a very worthwhile film to kick off a discussion. At the same time, I feel like this movie is only going to reach people who already agree with a lot of the premises in the film. It's not going to change hearts and minds. Like I said in my review of it, I said, you're better off making an updated version of Blazing Saddles that mocks our divisiveness and racism and mocks it and makes light of it, instead of this very serious film that's going to turn some people off. Ultimately, I think humor is a great way to deal with things like that. I mean, look, I grew up in a suburb of Detroit, right? And I thought by the time that I would reach the age that I am now, that we wouldn't even be talking about this. We'd be living in Star Trek times, because I watched Star Trek with my dad when I was a kid. And that was one of the things that was so groundbreaking about Star Trek, is you have all these people and they're all equal. I mean, there's a hierarchy with command and whatnot, but it was considered a matter that was dealt with at that time. Like it was all like we handled that years ago. There's that one famous episode with Frank Gorshin, who plays the Riddler on the 66 Batman, where like on one half of his face he's white, one half he's black, and then he's chasing after the guy, and he's like, it's the opposite on the other guy. He's black on one side of his face and white. Like, can't you tell the difference between us? But it was totally mocking modern day racism, but did it in a way that wasn't lectury. It was a really compelling story. And that was one of the episodes that dealt with that, but they dealt with it in a way that didn't make other people wrong. Right. That's the problem with modern Star Trek now, is it really makes everyone wrong. I think that's the problem with a lot of entertainment that's a problem with a lot of the entertainment that deals with race, is it's making one group of people bad and one good. And that is such a simple-minded way of dealing with it. And look,
that was the point of Star Trek. Star Trek was the utopian society. This is, humanity had come to this point where we had eliminated racism, eliminated sexism. And now we are going out into the universe to kind of see, to challenge these ideas, and to kind of go backwards with that with Star Wars, to say that no, we're not a utopian society anymore. We are a flawed society, just as flawed as we were back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s.
No, you're talking about Star Trek, right?
I am talking about Star Trek. Yeah.
No, but you said Star Wars. Anyways,
Star Wars.
Whatever.
I'm talking about Star Trek.
Yeah, but no, the new Star Trek is unwatchable to me. I've tried to watch it. With the exception of Picard season 3, it's fairly dismissible, and I think that everyone is so sick of this. I think there are people who would benefit from seeing Origin that will absolutely not go see it, simply because it's like, oh, I'm so tired of lectures in mainstream media.
DuVernay.
No. You're not. But the thing is this: someone has a right to think that way. That's okay. It's okay to why do people think that way? Because the media it's been shoved down people's throats that if you look a certain way, we've replaced old racism, which was bad, with new racism, which is also bad. And I thought at a certain point somewhere in the 90s, it's like we kind of like, I'm not going to say it's solved. I don't think it will ever be solved. Anyone that thinks there will be zero racism it's a pipe dream. There are always going to be some idiot, some troll, probably a kid, could be some kid that is just testing boundaries who shouldn't be on social media. You know that Florida has a bill? They're trying to make it that no one under the age of 16 is allowed to use any social media. I'm interested to see where that goes.
Yeah, that'll go over great.
Well, we'll see how that goes. But look, what's happened in recent years is the script has been flipped, where male and pale is stale, right? That's like a phrase that's bandied about in Hollywood, in entertainment, whatever. And look, I'm not going to apologize for being a straight white male. I'm just a person. Okay. No apologies for me ever. Not coming. But I love people. I love people. I'm attracted to people that are as passionate as I am and who have ideas where we can discuss things, but we're not so petty that we have to put certain people on a pedestal and others not. No, you're a person, impress me with your ideas. And there's a certain type of person who they feel they are so. Here's what I'll say. I'm always impressed by people's intellect, intelligence. What books have you read? We talk. I mean, we bond by movies or pop culture. Hey, comic books. You read that Frank Miller series? Well, that's why I love the nerd space, right? They've tried to be divisive in the nerd space. The last space you should be doing this. And there's so many great lessons from science fiction, from sports. We all unite around a cause so that the Detroit Lions will beat the 49ers and go to the Super Bowl. And we're all from different backgrounds. Some of us grew up poor, some didn't, some middle class, some not. But we're all here towards a common goal. Those lessons are from sports, the military, science fiction, and it's all being perverted. It's being perverted today, and it disgusts me. It needs to be called out. It needs to be called out. And this movie at least touches on these ideas, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point, is to make you rethink this.
Right.
Look, there's a scene that really stuck out to me, and I kind of dismissed it when you talked about it, but there's a scene where Isabel's basically has a leak in her basement. Her husband is dead.
Right.
She needs to get someone to fix it. And in comes Nick Offerman, and he's wearing a MAGA hat. And what's interesting about the scene is that the Wilkerson character, she is visibly uncomfortable with his presence simply because he's wearing a MAGA hat. And throughout the entire scene, all he's doing is saying what happened, giving her an estimate, doing his job as a plumber.
Yeah.
And you just see this really uncomfortable conversation because she's visibly upset by him. You can tell that she is treating him differently, and that you can tell that he knows that he knows that she is judging him for the sole reason that he's wearing that hat. And the scene doesn't end itself. There's no real this scene was about this, but it was just what the scene was about was to show that that we are at odds with one another, and the side that we think is good and the side that we think is bad, really, again, we are just people, and we judge each other constantly. And that's the whole thing about the caste system. I see some comments about, the caste system isn't about race. No, that's exactly right. That the point is that as society, as people, we always categorize people as either better than us, equal to us, or lower than us. And the way you treat people are better than us, and the way you treat people lower than us, you now just magnify that, multiply it millions of times, and that's the society that we have now. And you need to get rid of this. And not to bring religion into this, but I will. Christianity is based, at least the teachings of Jesus, is always based on servanthood. The meek shall inherit the earth. Talks about humility, talks about serving other people. And in fact, the greatest form of love, as the Bible says, is willing to give your life for another person. I don't know many religions that take that standpoint, that says, you do want to ultimately go for that equal status with people. No matter who they are, you want to treat people as either higher than yourself or equal to yourself.
Look, I've been around the nerd space, obviously, since I was a kid. And one of the things, especially reading X-Men when I was a kid, I read all the early X-Men comics and whatnot. And there are little subtle messages in there about bigotry. But they're not like overt. They're not hitting you over the head. They're just there. And so being around the nerd space is the most accepting space you could possibly be in. I almost think sports fans, when you get sports fans together, you love this team, you love that team, that means we're enemies, is sort of less accepting, right? There's not that like sportsmanship. But the thing is that bothers me a little bit is so much of a lot of the current content is anti-white and overtly racist. It's just like that doesn't solve any. That's just compounding the problem.
Yeah.
Let
me just illuminate that a bit. But it's that caste system. All you're doing is you're taking the hierarchy, these groups, and just flipping it. You're not solving it. You're just perpetuating it.
You're making it worse.
Series. Yeah.
Here's what I wish we did. Why aren't we celebrating how great we are as a country? That we are a country of so many different types of people, and things function for the most part, at least without government interference. But I feel the media is pushing a narrative to divide us, and I'm done with it. There needs to be more out in the universe, whether it's a movie, TV show, social media posts. Why don't we celebrate where we are? Why don't we celebrate where we are? Why aren't we, look, it wasn't even, what is 100, how many years ago we fought a civil war and we ended slavery. We went through some bad times with Jim Crow, but we are so far from that in the rear view mirror. Why don't we ever celebrate how amazing we are as a country that we could do this? So many other cultures, especially in Asian countries, and they all hate each other, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other caste system.
That's another thing we could talk about. The Koreans hate the Japanese. Everybody hates the Japanese, actually.
But everyone hates the Chinese now.
And the Chinese and everybody. Like, you could go on and on between different types of Asians. And this is why they just sort of throw Asians into one group. Asians, the very different groups, just like white people. I'm part Irish, German, English, Russian, and Polish. I'm like Europe had an orgy. Okay. But look, all I'm saying is, why don't we celebrate how amazing we are. Why don't we celebrate? Like, you know what? 50 years ago, it wasn't great, but it was better than it was. And it just keeps getting better. Why aren't we doing that? There are so many successful Black people in the United States. It's anyone can succeed. There are fewer barriers to entry. It's not like there's a class system that you can't move, through. Although I'll say, I think things are getting worse. I think the middle class is being gutted. And the best thing that we could do is build up the middle class. I mean, we could get into a whole thing about fatherless homes and how damaging that is to kids. Look, I grew up, with a single mother when I was a kid. And I'll say there are things I've had to struggle with because of that. But I was just taught by my grandparents, who were kind of my surrogate parents. You got to work hard. You want something? Work hard. You want that? Go get a job. You want that? I'll give you $1 if you mow the lawn. I just learned like valuable lessons about work and whatnot, and a work ethic. And I feel like we've lost that as a country, and we've lost being proud to be in a country that anyone can succeed if they're willing to work hard.
Well, from an economic, you talk about the middle class. From an economic standpoint, the destruction of small businesses is equally frightening to me. The pandemic destroyed the middle class because it destroyed small business.
Let's go. Yeah.
Let me just say one last thing about
Sure.
Origin and why I believe Origin is important to see. When it comes to the discussion of race in America today, there are questions you cannot ask. You cannot ask certain questions like, can you fight racism with racism? Can you be truly colorblind? In Origin, they ask those questions and they address those questions. And that, if anything, I've never seen a movie about race do that, to ask the tough questions that pokes an eye at both sides of the issue. And again, that's why I think this movie is so important.
Again, I really wish we celebrated how amazing we are, that we're capable of working together as a country. And I appreciate all your thoughtful comments. We're going to get to those right now.
Yep.
Starting with $100 super chat.
Hey, now.
From EZ054098 for 100. I have been working on a project ripping media to a Plex server with all of my favorite movies and TV shows for the past year. Because Hollywood is so bad now, there is very little to watch compared to what we, Chris, Allen, and myself, grew up with. Thank you so much. That is very generous.
By the way, I've been doing that for several years now.
Oh, really? Wow. Well, I'd like to get on your server. Thank you for that. That was very generous. Thomas Pickett for 5. Check out the short movie 2081, starring Armie Hammer, one of his first roles. It is based on Kurt Vonnegut's Harrison Bergeron. It deals with equality. Thank you for that, Thomas Pickett. Changer of Ways for 5. Hollywood, white men, no one wants you. Suicide pandemic, message received. Number one cause of death of men of a certain age is fentanyl overdose. Second cause, ending one's life. We are living through some dark times, people. Living through some dark times. Darth Racer 777 for 5 says you'll never get rid of racism as long as you have race hustlers who create division in society.
Yeah.
I
Well,
hate
as
to
long
agree
as
with
you
you.
give them, if you give them credibility, that's how you perpetuate these things.
Yes. Well, and it never stops. I just oh my God, there's this woman on MSNBC. Never watched a full show with her. This was the decline of MSNBC. Joy Reid. Every time I see her, it's a different haircut. She looks ridiculous.
Yeah, she's going with the Trump haircut right now.
I can't believe the stuff that comes out of her mouth unquestioned. Who at MSNBC thinks that Joy Reid and the ideas she espouses are good ideas? I really think she has betrayed America with the word. I mean, it's so divisive. It's going to lead to bad things happening. I want all of my fellow Americans to succeed. I don't care what you look like. Let's go. Let's support each other. But you're right. There will always be the those race hustlers, but there's going to be ignorant people. And look, I talked about, if you watch the origin review that I did, I talked about an experience I had with my grandmother when I was a kid, and a bunch of kids beat up my cousins and I, black kids in this neighborhood. And my Nana sat us down after the fight when we were like, I remember being in tears, and it was just like a weird experience. I never been the victim of violence. And she made us talk about Black Americans that we admired. And I was a huge fan of the Jackson 5 at the time. And it was just that conversation with my Nana and my cousins is burned in my brain. So yeah, it's unfortunate. Pilgrim Media for 2. Al Sharpton lost his grift to BLM.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate, I guess. I just wish I wish we cared about the truth. The truth matters. Let's talk about the truth. And when you see so many cases in the media of, there was like, that was a noose, there was that one NASCAR driver, there was a noose, and it was like, no, it's a garage pull. Like, it has a use. Like we're so hypersensitive now that people see racism in everything.
Yeah. You have to outlaw that knot nowadays. The other thing is that a lot of these race grifters who claim to be, professors at universities, they know nothing about history. Know nothing about history so much that they either make it up or they rewrite it to fit their message.
Let's see. We're going to just keep going. Nice pivot, -1, says Guy Vermectin for 5. We did our best. It's a weird pivot, but we got to do it. Red French Moon for €2. Just happy to see the Pander Stone still behind. It's right there. It's right there. It's not lit up today. The battery, I gotta get a replacement battery for that, but love it. Thank you, Red Frenchman. It's on Etsy. There you go. Let's see. Joe Haas for $9.99. Guys, I got kicked out of a writers group because I had the nerve to suggest that race and such doesn't matter. You need to focus on story and character. Oh my God, you should have heard the hate. Joe, if you would like, reach out to me. Go to filmthreat.com/contact. Tell me about your experience. There's a story that's going to run very shortly, a reaction to the open letter to the WGA. We're living through a time where we've replaced old racism with new racism. Still racism. You know what I do? This is weird. This sounds like a weird thing to say. Thank you for that, Joe. I'm looking forward to a time when someone black is going to be questioned that they're racist. And a black person will say, I'm not racist. I have white friends. I have a white friend. Because it's such a dumb thing that white people get criticized for saying, I have a black friend. And it's, sometime in the future, you're going to have a black person say, I have a white friend.
Yeah. Well, the Isabel Wilkerson was criticized for having a white husband.
Right. Jewish too. One last super chat here. We have got over 20 chat comments highlighted. We're going to continue the discussion after our interview, so stick around. Don't leave. One last super chat here from Darth Racer 777 for $5. You'll never get rid of. Okay, I read that one. Sorry about that. My apologies. Well, thank you for that. We're going to continue this because I think this is really important, and the chat is on fire with over 20 comments highlighted, and people are still talking. We have a special guest today. So let's pivot quickly. And here we go. Let's see. Does that work? How about this?
Well, we'll have 3 people on the screen, so
there we go.
The
director of The Seeding, filmmaker Barnaby Clay, is here to talk about his indie horror film, which is out now. It is out now. It is a harrowing film about a man who meets a woman who's living off the grid, who is tortured by a wild group of boys. I was getting a lot of the Hills Have Eyes vibes out of it. Hills Have Eyes is one of my all-time favorite horror films by Wes Craven. There are vibes of that. And Barnaby Clay is here to talk about the film. Barnaby, thank you for being on the Film Threat Livecast with us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Let me feature you full screen. Was that a decent sort of synopsis of the film?
That's very good. It's way better than every time I've had to do it.
Well,
we aim to please.
Long and includes all these details that you don't really need to know, and so yeah, spot on.
Well, it's shocking, not just in the events of the film, but also in the. I'm watching this and it's like, look, I watch a lot of horror films, love horror. This is, I would describe as a horror thriller because there are other layers to it, not just typical, gore fest, so to speak. There are shots in the movie where I'm like, someone got injured because there's a lot of, they're in this, the woman, the main location is this woman lives in this home off the grid, but she's in this cavern. And there's this ridge. Oh my God. How did you pull off those stunts? Where just literally looks like your lead actor could have gotten killed multiple times.
Yeah. I mean, thank you. Yeah. Cause it was a challenge. So it was actually, it's like a giant canyon. It's a big pit in the middle of the desert. And what we found in Utah, we found basically we found not an entire pit, as you'll see in the movie. We did a little bit of post and sealed up the entrance and the exit of that. But it is essentially a huge ravine, and it's about, I don't know, anywhere between 60 and 80 foot from the ground to the top of the ridge. And the ridge is definitely kind of a little rocky, and it was perilous for sure. It was scary. Scott Hayes, my lead actor, did not like heights, so he was not having a good time being swung around up there.
Wait, your lead actor didn't like heights because there's a scene where he's kind of stuck and flipping around, and I'm thinking he could have died.
Yeah.
I hope you have insurance.
He was completely safe. Let's just say
he was definitely thinking that too. And then these poor kids who are they look like it's easy up there, but they're actually standing on the edge of a 60, 70 foot precipice, and I think a couple of them were also pretty. One of them, the boy who sadly has a pretty nasty fate in the end. He has terrible fear of heights. So yeah, just kind of it was tough. But they all did it. Everybody, there was a lot of harnesses which we painted out in post-production and whatnot. I mean, when you're working in that kind of situation, up against time, and you'd have to pay some debt to safety as well. It's important.
Well, I'll say there was one shot where I couldn't believe how you did it, where a guy is strung up like he's about to be quartered. And that I'm looking at that going I felt ill just from looking at that shot because of just the sound that accompanies that scene. Can you tell us anything about ruining it? Yes. It was very effective. Let me just say, very effective.
A real child.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not a dummy, and that was actually the stuntman's son, doubling for the actor. And my God, we were all just I just was like, is he really going to go up there? He doesn't really have to go up there, but he went up there and he hung up there. Not quite as you're seeing. Obviously, again, there's a little bit of post-production going on, but he was basically hanging about 60 foot above the ground for, quite a long period of time, because we were shooting a really intense drama sequence down at the bottom. And I wanted to do shots where we're going from what's happening at the bottom to him up there. And he was just hanging quietly and happily up there whilst we did it.
We've got almost 900 people watching live. Oh, actually over 1,000 people. Wow. If you include Rumble watching live. We've got questions from our chat. you mind going to some questions here?
Sure, absolutely.
From Rumble, Adelis24 says the poster for the seating is fantastic. Was the simple vintage look a personal choice or one made by the artist?
Good question. I love the poster as well, so thank you. The poster's by Akiko Sternberger, and she is a genius poster artist. And she also happens to be a really good friend of mine, which is quite convenient for me. But immediately knew that she was going to be the right person for it. And we started talking early on about the idea. And I'm a big fan of my, in my office here, you can't really see them, but there's a bunch of movie posters and they're all kind of a little classic. I have one of The Devils, I have one of Zulwowski's Possession over there. I like a simple, bold image. I mean, if you think of like the best, Rosemary's Baby, Jaws, these, The Exorcist, they're all just like super simple, but now ultimately iconic imagery. And so I just kind of wanted to like call back to that a little bit. And that's what we did. And she nailed it, obviously.
Hail, Mr. Clay, says the nerd far away. What is your take on remakes?
Well, so this film was like partially inspired by Woman of the Dunes, I should say. And, but I did not want to remake that film because that's a fantastic, perfect movie in my book. But if you can take a story and maybe update it and it's kind of in the same way, make it your own, which is what I wanted to do with this, then I think it can be cool. It can be an interesting avenue. I just think my feeling is like, I like remakes when the film that started off with wasn't particularly great in the first place, but maybe had a great idea behind it, because that's a real opportunity. I think if you're going to remake a great, perfect film, then not really sure the point in that. Although I will say I'm kind of looking forward to Robert Eggers' Nosferatu, so we'll see what he does there.
Well, I'll just say I snuck into a test screening. I've seen Nosferatu. It's awesome.
Oh,
You're gonna love it.
Yeah,
Hopefully they don't change it too much.
Okay, cool.
Question here from Solomon Thornton. Greetings, Sir Barnaby. Can't wait to see the film. Any advice for beginning filmmakers?
Well, just do whatever you can. Make as much stuff. Don't sit around thinking about it. Just do it, as much as you can, because like never before have we had access to such tools, and it's been so easy. I know it seems like a huge mountain to climb, and it is, but at the same time, once you get going, you go. So yeah, just like get out there and do it.
Another question here from Mormaga says, the promo looks very professional, especially the sound. What is your secret?
The secret sauce. Great people, crew. I try and obviously, the more you can surround yourself with brilliant genius crew, then the better they're going to make you look. So, and sound. The sound is fantastic. The score, which is also out today, actually on Milan Records, is sensational. So, just get the right people. Spend a good amount of time finding those people. That's the important thing.
Another question here from Matthew Hammond for 2 says, what are the necessary tropes for a horror movie?
I'd say try and avoid the tropes if you can.
True.
Try for something new. It's hard, but like that's always the best thing. I don't know. I guess silence is probably the biggest thing. It's really, horror movies exist between in the realm of the contrast between silence and noise. So nice quiet moment and then thundering noise. That's the big thing. And then obviously great characters that you get invested in, that you feel maybe something for when they go through what they go through.
Let's see. Red French Moon has a question here. My question for Barnaby Clay, it's a bit silly, but I always wondered if for a horror movie, you need a certain heavy mood on set, or having fun and a good mood on set could weirdly make it better. What's your feelings about that?
Yeah, it's not silly. I think it's a good question. Well, I think you can have both. I had a heavy mood on this film, and it wasn't really because of anything other than it was, we shot for 19 days and we had a huge amount to shoot, including, like you mentioned at the beginning, a bunch of stunts. And yeah, it was incredibly stressful and painful. But I did feel when I left, even though I was like a shell of myself when I left Utah filming it, I felt like whatever we got, there's some of the intensity of that situation there on set must bleed into the film. It must do, it must. And I will say a lot of like serious horror, you like listen to the stories behind the making of them, and yeah, they're all pretty intense experiences.
From Rumble, 8Ellis24 says, what was it like taking the film on the festival circuit? I know it played South by Southwest. How do you feel it helped the film get exposure? Was it worth the cost? What do you think?
It didn't play South by Southwest, actually.
Oh, are you sure? Okay, yeah. I mean, of course you would know. Are you sure?
Yeah. Started Tribeca, and then it kind of like premiered in Tribeca, and then went on throughout the summer. And it was great. Festivals are really very fun and very important because you get to meet people, especially in the genre world. You get to meet people who like love horror films, and they are so passionate. And when you work on something for a number of years, it's really nice to have people coming up and saying how much they loved it afterwards. You just don't, as a director, you don't really get much of that interaction with people. You finish the film and it goes to a theater, and then it's off and it's done. So to have that experience is great, and then to go off and obviously travel around the world with it is really fun, and see how the different audiences react in different places around the world. It's cool. Yeah, love it.
Question here from Professor Fear. Looking forward to seeing the seating. Do you do the horror convention circuit? Monsterpalooza, Midsummer Scream?
I do not. I've not done. I mean, we did a bunch of horror festivals, but not like conventions. I would love to, though. I used to when I was like, in my late teens. I grew up in London, where they still had a ban on a bunch of video nasties and stuff. And I used to go to horror conventions with, I'd say a bunch of us did this. It was kind of like the thing that you did back then. But yeah, big like suitcases full of pirated videotapes of like the video nasties. And that was my thing. Loved selling them, loved buying them, then buying posters, and got way too much stuff. But I think that's my main problem, was I try and avoid it because I don't want any more stuff in my life.
You and me both. Yeah. From Rumble, 8Ellis24, what was it like working with Caitlin Scheel? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes.
As she has an extensive background of indie horror work, did she bring any suggestions from her prior work towards this character?
No, I think it was, I don't think she, start off with it. It was great working with her. She's a phenomenal actress and extremely easy and pleasant and enjoyable to work with. I think she didn't like bring suggestions like from this is how we did it then, or like, but really, I think when you have that experience behind you, you just inherently know what you're doing. And she really, it took her, once she got a handle of the character, she was just like, she would just switch on like that, into that character, and was just kind of like pretty much blew us away every take. Actually, she's so fantastic, and was, yeah, like I said, pleasure to work with.
Super chat here for 2 from Matthew Hammond. What are your top 3 horror movies?
Oh, damn. It's like an impossible question, but I will say number 1 has to be Texas Chainsaw, because it's literally the greatest horror movie ever made and probably always will be. Maybe I'm looking at my Possession poster over there thinking that could be one of my favorites as well.
Wow.
I do love that movie. And oh God.
You're on the spot.
Maybe Rosemary's Baby as well. I think, yes.
And a final question here from JTPRX. Where can this be seen? Theaters, streaming?
Good question. Very relevant question. Comes out today. It's in theaters across the states. I'll be posting up on my Instagram, which is Out the Ether, and so you'll see all the different. I mean, you can look it up, but you'll see where it's playing, and it's also on demand.
Awesome. All right, Barnaby, thank you so much for joining us on the Film Threat Livecast. And what did you say what was your Instagram again?
Out of the Ether.
Out of the Ether. Oh, I think that someone would have grabbed that. You grabbed it before anybody else.
I know. Well, I grabbed it out of the ether.
There you go. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Congratulations on the film.
Thank you so much, man. Great chat and good questions. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Later. That was great. That was awesome. Love talking to filmmakers.
Yeah, that was great.
Love it. Okay, now we're going to continue with our discussion. I'm going to actually change. I'm not going to change a topic. I'm going to add something else. We're going to make this a discussion because so many chat comments and questions have been highlighted. So we're going to get into it.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Ava DuVernay's film Origin and race, because one of the most comfortable conversations you can have is about that. So let's do it. Before we kick things off, and we have so many comments and questions here. Quick one here from George the Giant Slayer for 20 says, Chris and Alan are the Batman and Robin of breakdowns, background and behind the scenes, insight into movies and the Hollywood Hive. Your guests and analysis like the D-Files are the best. All hail Film Threat.
Thanks, George.
Well, thank you, George. Appreciate that. That's very generous.
And I was on his show last week, so make sure you check that out.
I was watching live.
Yes,
it was great. Mostly, kind of half watching it, to be honest.
Well, thanks. Thanks for the attention.
Back to this. Alan, what are your look? My final thoughts are, I like that this film asks another question, but we can't replace old racism with new racism, because I see that people are, and you cannot deny this. If you say anything racist against a white person on social media, it's totally fine. If you see people say racist things like on any episode of Joy Reid's show on MSNBC, nobody cares. It doesn't matter. And I think both are wrong. Both the racism of old and the racism that's new. All bad. And this argument that black people can't be racist, I'm sorry. I've seen it. They can. I don't think I'm against racism in all their forms. Not a radical thing to say, but I also think it's not something I preach or need to talk about. I think it's stupid to even, I feel like the people that sort of preach it too loudly, there might be something going on with them. I just sort of live my life a way where, you know, I like to hang out with like-minded people, but it really, their outer who they are, their identity is kind of irrelevant. I think if you make too much about your identity, I think it becomes a trap. And I think you allow yourself to be controlled by other people, especially when it comes to name calling. I think there's a more thoughtful conversation. Some of the best commentary I've seen about race, it's usually by people that are not accepted by mainstream. For example, Zuby. Does anyone know who Zuby is? I follow Zuby. Zuby follows me, oddly enough, on Twitter. And I think he has some of the most thoughtful takes on race. And he doesn't talk, he's not a guy that talks about race a lot. He does a podcast. I would describe him as a modern philosopher, and he's a rapper. I'm not super into his music, but I'm not super into any rap music. I'm just not. Okay, I'm sorry. It's not my jam. I like different stuff. Movie soundtracks is where my ears tend to gravitate. But, I just want to be able to have this discussion out loud where all people are allowed to express their opinions. All people. Not like, shut up and listen. We're the ones talking. We flipped the caste system to this, and now you're at the bottom. And the mainstream media, all the mainstream news outlets have just accepted this. Social media tends to accept this. I do not accept this. I think we can all have adult, straight conversations. I think the only way to have real change is to be honest, not just to be honest, but be honest with yourself. And I feel that I feel that if you're a community that wants to change, outside forces are not going to change you. Programs to help you aren't going to change you. The only way to change you, you only have power to change yourself. And I almost think it's condescending. We have to help these people. Like the overreach of affirmative action and DEI, it's been an overreach. Started with good intentions. It's now been an overreach. We're deserving people. We need to get back to a meritocracy. That works. And what it does is it puts the bar here, and we want you to reach for that bar. Lowering standards is the worst possible thing we could do, and I think we are leaning to the wrong end of the bell curve. I'm going to get to your comments in a minute, but I want to hear what Alan has to say about what I just said.
Yeah, no, I agree. I kind of take the Morgan Freeman attitude. Stop talking about it. You want to change racism, you stop talking about it. It's weird, but growing up in an all-white community all my life through high school, I hate to say it, but white people are pretty good to me. The ones who bullied me were assholes. They weren't racist. And honestly, race to me was never an issue in my life until I got to college. And then I was paying people to tell me that racism is a big issue in life. And to say that, I would say this in terms of access to opportunities for me and for other minorities in America today, much better today than it was in the 80s when I was growing up. But the vitriol is much worse today than it was in the 80s. And that's my frustration. A lot of the comments are out there is basically saying, Ava DuVernay, I'm looking at John Harrison's comment here, black privileged clown in Hollywood. It's weird. But I kind of find I've kind of followed her career in the sense of she's always, to me, felt like she walked two lines. One is I think she has a lot of good things to say about race, but at the same time, she's kind of, I felt like she kind of got sucked into the Hollywood system, to this woke Hollywood system that is forcing her and other people of color, other minority directors, writers, actors to toe a certain line. And I feel like it's that way. As we talked about a couple of years ago, I reviewed a movie called Justine about a woman who was trying to get her life back on track after her veteran husband died. He was black. They have a half black, half white child, and she's having a lot of problems. And I reviewed it. I gave it a really positive review because it was a very sweet movie. And the filmmaker took my review and took the movie, gave it to Ava DuVernay, and she got it on Netflix. And so there's, it's, I kind of I don't want to get to this point where I have to say that she's a horrible person or that she's the grifter, because why would she produce a movie like this? And what I also find amazing is that this movie is put out by Neon and not by any of the big studios. So it's one of these indie film outlets that is giving her this voice. I mean, this is the baffling thing is you watch this movie and you think to yourself, how is this from Ava DuVernay? because it doesn't fit the message that we are hearing constantly, and that maybe there's something there. I'll grant it. The book Origins came out in 2020, so maybe it's a come to Jesus moment. I don't know, but I think maybe from this audience, this movie would be more well received if her name wasn't attached to it. But the reality is, she did film this movie. She's the director. She shot it on film, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
That's not an easy task to, that tells you that there's intention in this story. And, it's, at times I just get tired of having to research a filmmaker's life and to judge whether, that this particular film that I saw on a screen, that I need to taint it some way, good or bad, because of that person's past. Sometimes you just have to take the film for what it is, and that is what's thrown up on that screen, and that's my approach to this film.
Well,
so
look,
I'll just say it's definitely a movie you need to see. If you don't agree with it, you need to see this movie, because it will either strengthen or it will cause you to question your current beliefs, and maybe you need to alter it a bit, or maybe it'll strengthen it by saying this is where it clearly got it wrong. But that's what this discussion has to be, because the discussion is now one-sided. White people bad, everyone else good. And,
well, that's the thing. That's the thing, that the only socially acceptable form of racism now is against white people.
Mm-hmm. The WGA letter is the perfect example of that.
It's socially acceptable. No racism whatsoever should be socially acceptable ever. And what really irks me is there have been, for decades since the Civil War, good white people who have stood up and stood behind Black Americans, Black brothers and sisters, however you want to put it, and have stood up and said, no more, no. And now I feel like we're at a point where it would be really nice when you see a narrative that's out there that is very anti-white, that Black people need to now, we're at the point now where we have to have sober-minded Black voices stand up and say, you know what? This is very anti-white. How about we don't do this either? Until we get to that place, these problems will never go away. These problems will never go away. You can talk white supremacy till you're blue in the face. There may be a form of Black supremacy that I think is taken seed, and I think it is a dark place we're going down as a country if this is where we're going. So,
one thing that has been going on in my mind, especially as the Christian in the room, is this idea of forgiveness. And for years I've been thinking, why is it that the Black church just doesn't simply say, I forgive white people for slavery?
Well,
can you imagine what that would do, the talk that would have, and the ideas that would go in people's minds of forgiving and saying that was a long time ago and we need to move on with our lives? Go ahead.
Well, here's what I'll say. I wish we were unburdened by what has been.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone know who said that? That's a quote
Pee Wee Herman
from a very famous. I wish we were unburdened from what has been. And I'm being serious. I feel like there's almost like a burden that comes with. I had a friend in college who happened to be Black, and he did not want to cast Black people in his movies. He said if he casts a Black person in like a short film or something he was making, it's like then he's sort of burdened to like having to deal. He wanted to cast white people because his whole thing was, well, white people are generic people. I can just tell a story instead of a story that's going to have these sort of like almost obligation to comment on race. I just want to tell a story of a person, not, tell a story about race. So,
and to be clear, you're talking about a Black director who said that.
I'm talking about a Black director who wanted to only cast white people. There you go. Make of that what you will. Let's go to your comments and questions about this, starting with George the Giant Slayer for 20 says, Chris and Alan, how do you think the new rules for films by the Academy will impact the quality in 2024 and beyond? Or is it only for show? Just a virtue signal to the soapbox crowd. All hail.
I think it's a virtue signal. And I've said it before. In fact, I think I said on your show, George, Oppenheimer, I don't know how Oppenheimer qualified. They won't tell us. Look, I want to know how it was qualified. You know, if Christopher Nolan had a very diverse behind the scenes, great. I would like to know that just so he could boast about that. You know, I found the best people from across the board to make my movie. Because because the alternative to all that is that the Oscars knew it couldn't have an Oscar ceremony without Oppenheimer as Best Picture, and so it let it slide. And then that says something about those standards, that they don't take those standards seriously, and that is all for show.
Joseph, who's a member, says Chris is determined to solve racism this afternoon.
Well, it'll happen. I think we've solved racism.
In the next couple hours, can we just I'm just looking for sober-minded voices. It feels like the only voices that get amplified are the ones that sow the seeds of division. Yeah. That's it. The voices that get amplified, the loudest, the ones that get news stories on them, are all the crazy people that are straight up racist. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, the sober-minded people are getting canceled left and right.
Right.
You have Raven Simone, who comes out and says that she's not black, she's American.
I'm going to be canceled in 20 minutes. I'm going to get canceled in 20 minutes after this.
You've already been canceled.
I don't care.
But the point is, I think soon enough of us will get canceled that will outnumber the uncanceled, and we can return back to a normal society.
Joe Haas for 5 says, we are at a point where the amount of brownie points a movie, book, or TV story can have instead of exploration of ideas. That's why I write. Joe, keep writing. Don't be discouraged. There is an indie movement that's going to sweep the country that as people continue to reject Hollywood.
Hollywood is not the dream.
Sir Switch Crookington, member for 12 months. Why political threat?
Because we're talking about a movie.
Matthew Hammond for 2. There are too many people making money to stop it. Unfortunately, I agree with you. Yep. Bush and Ryu Cat for 5. Chris Allen, I'll replay the part about Dune part 2 later, about filmmaking and wokeness. Maybe you should explain the meaning of woke to the uninitiated. Allen?
The explanation of woke, it's honestly, it's similar to political correctness. I think what makes me call it woke is the luxury nature of it. You know, right. where whatever thing you write, whatever television show you make, whatever movie you make, you have to preach and right. talk down to people, as opposed to movies that used to empathize with people. You know, where you could put yourself in the shoes of the protagonist, feel their obstacle that they have to overcome, and then when they overcome it, you feel hope in yourself that you can overcome it as well, and that is gone. Now we have to be told how we are imperfect and how we are wrong in areas of race, in gender, in everything.
Let me just say this. Maybe Glenn, you want to click this as a YouTube short. You will never change hearts and minds by making someone else wrong. You can only do that through empathy. And there is a terrible idea that has become popularized, and that is that I must look like the character in the movie that I'm seeing, or I must be exactly the same thing as the character I'm writing or drawing. Bad idea. The point of all fiction, comic books, movies, TV, video games, is to empathize with someone who does not look like you. The point of that is the entire point. You empathize with someone who doesn't look like you. You learn empathy, which is what it means to be human. Mm-hmm. Clip that.
Here, I'll piss off the audience with this. In the 80s, I was a very staunch evangelical Christian. You know, and we're in the middle of the AIDS crisis at this point. So homosexuality was a sin; it was an abomination. AIDS was God's judgment upon the homosexuality community. What changed me was the fact that I started having I had gay friends, you know, and I started getting more gay friends. And you realize that when you have gay friends, when you talk to them, when you treat them as normal people, as your friend, you realize that certain things you've learned to believe about them are not true. And that, and I can go even further in terms of how I dealt with it from a Christian standpoint. But, you know, the only way to get empathy is to broaden your sphere. In Origin, the first pillar of the caste system, the first way you create the caste system is to prevent cross-mixing. you prevent interracial marriages.
Right.
You prevent groups from crossing over through marriage. You stop that, and you've created the first foundation to create a caste system.
Hey, Echo Base Network for 10 says, great stream today, guys. Loved Attack of the Doc. Chris, finally got a chance to watch it last night. See you in an hour. So I guess at the top of the hour, I'm going to be on Echo Base Network.
Okay.
So if you want, go over there. I don't know what we're talking about.
Star Wars.
Coach is going to tell me, but I'll be there at noon. So look for me. I'll be on for an hour. And thank you. Very generous of you. George the Giant Slayer coming in hot with another take here. What about Nia DaCosta? Would you say she was trapped in the system or just another quota queen that became a director? I don't know.
I think it was both.
I think it was a little bit of both, because I actually I listened to the commentary for the Marvels because I got the digital, came with the commentary track. I actually think that she knows what she's doing as a filmmaker. I think her problem was making a movie for a big company. Making a movie for a big company, you are a tool. You're not an artist. And
she was a diversity hire.
She may have been, but I do believe she actually knows what she's talking about movie wise. And Alan, I need to take a quick break. So you're going to start from the top and read the comments. Wow. I will be right back. Yeah, there's a lot of comments.
Yeah, there's a lot.
You might want to filter to the best ones, but I'll be right back.
Okay. So let's see. From Jimmy Francis. Alan, do you mean Origin has borrowed the structure of adaptation? Possibly, yeah. I mean, this is basically, it's based on the book. So that's where it comes from. Kevin Appel, hey, we did already. Mysterious forces have brought it back. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that the discussion of race is worse today than the discussion of race in the 80s. And yet, yeah, inverse. I think I talked about that already. Raylo Normie. Well, if this is the message of the movie, she's absolutely correct. Is there a chance the pendulum is swinging back? Just don't swing too far back. Yeah, I mean, I always look at politics as the pendulum. When the pendulum swings too far to the extremes, you run into problems of fascism, of authoritarianism, and it works best when you have it in the middle. When you have two sides at war with each other over ideas, and then somehow coming to some kind of consensus. That's the idea. The idea being that if we legislated the world based on what we agree with and our common ground, we'd probably have a better world than we have today. All right. Why are we talking about politics? This is movies. Ava DuVernay argued for keeping a caste system, but just reversing it. Well, yeah, if she argued that, then I don't know how she could have made the movie she had, because I think the point is you can't reverse the caste system because you maintain the caste system by doing that. Let's see. Guy Vermectin. Hey, there you go. I believe Thomas Sowell said something along the lines of, if you want a wound to heal, stop picking the scab. Yes. Somehow, like the human body, we can be resilient. Professor Fear, there is a caste system, but it ain't based on race. Yeah, I would claim that today the true caste system is based on political think. Who you vote for. And now we're going to put those people in groups and then have those groups war with one another. Okay, from David B. Imagine if every day your parent called you and tried to teach you the same lesson over and over and over and over and over again. Yeah, you kind of then want to question as to, is it really true, Mom? Let's see. Raylo Normie also says, it's an Ava DuVernay movie and it's not woke. How is this possible? I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it came out of Neon and not out of any of the major movie studios. Beerosaurus Rex. Basically, you can't solve racism with more racism. Solomon Thornton. Dr. King once said, hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Very wise words. From Mike MC Wong. Hey, Mike. I'm just saying I'll be hanging out in your area more often in the near future. It is a serious film. I'm not a fan. I think her trying to equate caste with racism doesn't quite work. That's kind of the thesis of the whole movie. that the caste system is not just about racism, but it's about what's going on in the Middle East with religion, what was happening with the Holocaust, how essentially a white culture can do such atrocities with that. We can go back further and further into history from the beginning of time and see that happening. Let's see. Heinlein. True. Star Trek fans used to leave room for your own interpretation. Now it's specific to someone's agenda in the script. Yeah. The best science fiction is the one that allows you to ask questions and wrestle with it. And that's the point. That's engagement. That's wrestling with it. Crit Nature. 10 years ago, this movie would probably be pretty successful. You're probably right. Let's see. Origin is 10 years too late. Yeah. And then Patrick Lemire. Dismail and pale, and your movie will fail. Dismail and pale, and your movie will fail.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting comment. Yeah.
All right.
Do you want me to take over here?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to wrap up in a few minutes.
Because I only went through half of them.
There's some breaking news, so don't leave, actually.
Okay.
Breaking news. We're going to get through these comments. Origin is just another race hustle, says David B. I mean, I don't know. I think it was made to win Oscars. It was made to win Oscars. I think there's a better way to get the result. David B goes on to say, racism is about fear of the unknown. You can look with your eyes and say, that person is different. I should fear what I don't know. Same thing with people with money do when they see a bum. Solomon Thornton says to the Nerd Frog, another Christian saying, do unto others as you want to be treated. And Toby Pegram, hope I said that right. I agree. Let's celebrate how far we have come. No other country like this one where it is so diverse and we manage to exist together. That's right. We can disagree and coexist. It's a miracle we're not at war all the time.
Yeah.
Byron B says, why is Miller's Girl starring Jenna Ortega so unseen?
Yeah. We actually just gave that a good review on the website.
Okay. That's good. I just want to get through these.
Yeah, I know.
Not watching cable news is the best thing I've done in the past 2 years. You're right about dividing, says Heinlein. It is so divisive. I can't watch the news anymore. It makes me sick.
Can't watch any of them.
Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Being a jerk is race and gender neutral, says Solomon Thornton, and I agree. Triple Threat 305. I have not seen a ton of promotion regarding Origin. Do you think this is because it offers a more nuanced view of race rather than the typical one-sided view we see nowadays? But the one-sided view we see nowadays, it's just woven into everything. It's not like a movie about, I don't know that you can, and this is the thing, because the movie just specifically deals with race head on, I think is why people are so turned off.
Yeah, but I find it, the so-called, racial experts, there's a sense that they're suppressing this movie for some reason, that they're just not talking about it. And
yeah, no one's talking about it.
Away.
Mark Clement, my favorite race is Formula One. I hate all other races. Well, there you go. David B. Clifton Duncan. I know Clifton Duncan. We follow each other on social media. I'm supposed to be on his show someday. Clifton Duncan, go watch his YouTube channel. He's amazing. Film Threat, I think you've even had him on. We have not had him on. Yeah. He's been on FNT, but he did invite me on his show. It's a scheduling issue. I will be on Clifton Duncan's show at some point, and I really admire him. He is very outspoken, and he's saying things that aren't with the narrative. And I think he's wildly talented. Like when you hear him, I don't know. I really like him.
Yeah. Gothics has a new movie out, and we should try to get her on.
We reviewed it. Reviewed it. It's on lore.tv, LOOR.tv. It's Gothics. Someone made a documentary about her, and it's about how she doesn't fit in the box. And it's fantastic. George the Giant Slayer said Dr. Martin Luther King did not envision replacing racism with racism. 100%. Air G Doc says you can only change yourself is the greatest wisdom a young person can ever learn. Takes most adults a lifetime to understand that wisdom. True. And a super chat here from Kevin Apple says, have you seen Father's Day by Astron 6? Thoughts? I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
Father's Day. Is it a Is it a short film? I don't know who Astron 6 is.
Yeah.
drop me a link, or you know how to contact us. Go to filmthreat.com/contact. And there you go. Last bit of breaking news. Okay. This literally, I'm checking my phone as I was on a break, and this just happened. That's right, folks. Dune Part 2 IMAX tickets are now on sale.
Yes.
They are on sale as we speak. In IMAX, this is all screenings. This isn't the fan screening. This is the IMAX screening, on sale now. The tickets, they're right there. You can see. So the floodgates have opened. Long live the fighters. And here you go. I love alternate posters. I'm a huge fan of movie posters. If you go to Film Threat's Instagram, the Film Threat Instagram is just a feed of, well, it's like memes of Alan and I, little funny videos. And then it is mostly posters because I love movie posters. So here's the IMAX poster for Dune Part 2.
Very nice.
Let me show you one of the other Dune posters. It's not the only one that we have. Here's another Dune Part 2 poster. This one's okay. Dune Part 2. It's all right. But the other poster is one that we see quite often. I really want to show this to you just to make a point. Here's another Dune Part 2 poster that just dropped, just to share it with you so you can check this out. This one that's kind of a common one. They call it like heads floating in the air. And what's surprising is, I want to let you know, whenever you see a poster like this, this is the poster that movie studios are contractually obligated to do. And I'm not even making this up, okay? So when you see,
so is in the actors' contracts that they appear in the poster?
Not a joke. In the actors' contracts, is my head going to be on the poster? This is why you see so many posters, or they do those character posters. The character posters are because it is contractually, this is the agents doing their job, saying, I want to promote my client, want to make them into a star. Not only is the percentage size of the heads something that is negotiated on a everything but the kitchen sink poster, the names and the order of the names is negotiated. It gets utterly ridiculous. It is always, this is the compromised legal department agent manager version of the poster that is ugly. Nobody likes this. It's awful. I can't stand it. But
that is not a good poster either.
But to drive that point home, I want to show you one last thing. You have to see this. This is what this poster is. There's your template right there. Can you see? Let me blow it up a little bigger. You see that? It's name, title superhero, main villain, crossover hero, the love interest, sub-villain, comic relief character, someone in action pose, flying thing, landscape here, names a date. These are all these. I'll share this on social media. This is the compromised poster that's always put out, mainly because the legal department deems it so, right? I mean, look at that. It's ridiculous. So
yeah,
there you go.
All right. They don't care about us. They care about
look, this is the one poster they're obligated to do. It's when you see this and the character posters, that's something that the legal department makes the studio do.
It's so ego driven. It has nothing to do with art. It has everything to do with ego.
Well, you couldn't be more right, Alan. But that's it. That's going to wrap it up for us today. We went a little long. We appreciate you. Want to say thanks to our mods. Thank you to our mods, Lord Foth and Latino Slant, and Bush and Ryu Cat coming in hot with a $5 super chat. Says racism against blacks by whites is exaggerated. Proof. Look at how many people, including you, liked Black Panther. Yeah, it's a weird thing where something is weaponized when it doesn't fit the narrative. But how do you explain the success of an actor, producer, and director, Michael B. Jordan? How do you explain his success? Why do people love him? Why do people love Denzel Washington? If people are so racist, how do you have so many beloved Black Americans in entertainment, in sports, This is why I'm saying, why don't we celebrate it? It's being used. It's being used to divide us, and we need to push back. And you know what? Push back from a white guy. No one cares what I have to say. People care more, at least in the outside world, about what others may say. Everyone needs to start standing up. Alan, you need to stand up for me.
Don't I?
No,
Alan,
the other thing is
realize that
into that screening.
Yeah, when you get attacked on social media, from Clown Penis 69, just realize they have no followers. They don't care. They're just there for noise, and just have an opinion and stand by it. That's the way you do this.
Well, it's really specific.
And I'll get you into the screening. I'll talk to them. All right.
Okay. Look, it's just really specific that you would say Clown Penis 69.
69.
It's and by the way, I want to point out, I want to thank just everybody for watching and subscribing to the channel. If you're a new subscriber, we are at 109,000. It is Alan's dream. It is his dream to get to 109,000 subscribers. So
yes.
there you go.
And for various reasons, we had to reset our follower count on Rumble. So if you have not followed on Rumble, please do so. Because we want to get
reset it.
Look, we can talk about it offline. It's
okay,
nothing.
We'll talk about it
it's
offline.
nothing nefarious. But if we could get to 6,900 on Rumble, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, yes, we need to get to 69,000 followers on Rumble. That is our goal. We will see you next week, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern for Hollywood on the Rocks, and Friday with our regular Film Threat livecast. We're going to be talking about Argyle. Alan, what else do you have coming up this weekend?
Let's see. Yeah, I'm in San Diego. It's at the National Comedy Theater at 7:30. And it's Sundance, so I'm going to be watching a lot of Sundance movies this weekend.
And I am going to be watching not only the Detroit Lions, got William Shakespeare wearing my Detroit Lions headband. I'll be watching the Detroit Lions play in the NFC Conference Championship. I borrowed from my buddy Joel Space Battleship Yamato. It is the live action version of the film. I got it on Blu-ray. I'm going to be watching it this weekend. Very excited for that. So basically I'm staying home this weekend, alphabetizing new Blu-rays, and I'm going to be working on this WGA article that's going to post at some point. Alan, we did it.
Yo, I did it.
George the Giant
definitely
Slayer.
a prettier woman.
We're trying to leave, George.
Okay,
we're trying to leave.
Stop playing things.
I got to go on Echo Base Network. I will never get on the show. George the Giant Slayer for 5 says, which studio do you think makes the best posters? A24.
Yep.
A24, if you look at the posters that they make in terms of a studio, now there's a lot of good indie ones. Just look at the Film Threat Instagram. Subscribe to the Film Threat Instagram. We're closing in on 10,000. I want to get us to get to 10,000. But A24 does some really incredible posters, and it's usually by designer. I actually know someone who designs posters for some of the major studios who just tells me that people are idiots. There's a very good documentary, George. You would love it. It's called 24 by 36, and it is free on YouTube, and it is about movie posters. It's about movie poster designs. Look it up, free on YouTube, 24 by 36, an amazing documentary. So here, and you know what? How about one last review for today?
Wait a second. Alan Ing, how would you rank The Iron Claw among the movies of the year? Alan Ing, I'm calling you out, Alan Ing.
Oh yeah, it's definitely top 5.
It's top 5 of the year for The Iron Claw. The Iron Claw.
Yeah, it'll be
nominated for 0 Oscars, by the way.
Yes.
That's it for me. Football weekend for me. Alan, are you doing anything this weekend?
Yeah, we already talked about this. I'll be in San Diego tomorrow night.
San Diego at the National
You
Comedy
almost want to
Theater.
end this thing.
If you go to Alan's Twitter, he has a link tree that links to the National Comedy Theater. Alan?
Let's get out of here.